Speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Hello, everybody. Hope everything is looking okay and sounding okay. I'm getting a little bit of a lag on my end, so give me a little feedback. Let me know if everything sounds and looks all right. I, of course, am Stephen Jensen, and there is no Jeremy Lambert here. He may be joining us during the show, but Jeremy is unfortunately dealing with an illness, so he's been missing the shows this week, but hopefully we can get him. And once again, if y'all can just give me a little feedback, I appreciate it. If you can let me know if I sound and look okay, because I don't usually man all this stuff myself. Usually Jeremy does a lot of this back end stuff while we do the show. Power Driver Finish says the video is laggy, sound is good. Okay, well, if there's anything that I can do to fix that, I will try to. Video's good now. Okay, if y'all keep me updated, you know what I'm going to do? Let me remove. I just took down the video. Okay, because I'll run the interview at the end of the show for y'all with Big Dave. So I'll pull that up afterwards. Hopefully that makes the stream a little bit better for everybody watching. Apologize for the technical stuff right here up front, but it is just me today unless Jeremy joins. But we have a lot to talk about today, and that's the main reason I didn't want to miss this show, because as y'all know, John Cena actually turned heel after all these years. It actually happened. And the catalyst for this gigantic move was Cody Rhodes. I mean, Cody Rhodes is such a large babyface. He is the man to such a degree that John Cena and The Rock, The Rock have both turned. So we're going to definitely talk about that today on the show a lot. We're going to be previewing AEW's Revolution pay-per-view, so we'll talk about my predictions for that show. This would be a great episode as well. If anyone has any just questions, comments, anything at all, whether they be super chats or just in the live chat, this would be a great episode since it's just me here by myself most likely. It'll probably be a shorter show as well today, a little bit more of an intimate show, me and you guys a little more directly with the chat. So I hope the people who watch this on demand still enjoy the episode, because I'm going to have a lot of thoughts on the heel turn, obviously. AEW Revolution predictions should be fun. And then I'll also talk a little bit about the NWA's relationship with the WWE. We saw Natty Neidhart is going to be wrestling for the NWA soon. And WWE Evolve also debuted yesterday on Tubi. So those are going to be the topics for today's show. And then at the end, I will air an interview with Big Dave, former TWE champion. He's going to be competing in the New South Haas tournament this weekend. So hope everyone is doing well tonight. Hope everyone in the chat is having a good evening. I really like this switch up now that we're doing the evening shows instead of doing this in the morning. This would be especially difficult to do this at 8:30 a.m. like we used to if I was by myself doing that. So luckily, I've already had my entire day of work at the shoot job, and I'm ready to talk about professional wrestling. So, because I'm not Jeremy, I'm not used to doing this, let me find our bumpers, and then we will get on into the first spotlight.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
What a story it is. What a story. So, as all of you know by now, considering today is Thursday and this all went down on Saturday, we've had Raw since, of course, on Monday on Netflix. One of the biggest things that's happened, honestly, in the entire time that I've been a fan of professional wrestling happened at the end of Elimination Chamber. I've been watching wrestling for over 30 years. I'm 36, almost 37. I started watching when I was very young. I remember, I mean, Randy Savage was my first favorite wrestler when I got into wrestling, but that was like during his WCW days. I got in probably 93, 94-ish. Is like as far back as I can remember. To put perspective onto this, I was young enough that the Dungeon of Doom was like incredible to me. Like I thought the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, was like the biggest villain in the history of wrestling. And I watched like the debut of the Giant, and I saw all these like WWE cast-offs, WWF at the time, of course, that I didn't know from the WWF. I knew them from WCW because that's what I was watching when I was, 6 years old or whatever. And the reason I'm saying all this is because I lived through the NWO. I remember when Hogan turned. You know what I mean? I lived through the Attitude Era. I lived through the Ruthless Aggression Era. I lived through the PG era. I never stopped being a fan this entire time. And I just want that perspective out there because I don't say this lightly when I say, obviously we have to see where things are headed, where all this ultimately goes. But the actual turn itself for John Cena was one of the biggest moments in the history of me being a professional wrestling fan. We never thought, there was times where it looked like it was possible over the years. And trust me, I was in those crowds, those live crowds with some of y'all, maybe, in fact, at some of these big shows like WrestleMania and the Royal Rumbles. And whenever, Raw or SmackDown would come to my town, I would be in the crowd doing the John Cena sucks. John Cena sucks. I was really, really bummed, for instance, when he beat Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 30. I was live in the crowd at that one. I was like, I was big on Bray at the time, and I felt like Cena, just super Cena. I'd had enough of it. There's so many moments you can look at where it was like, now would be a good time to turn Cena. They've talked in the past about how he almost turned in his feud with The Rock, and they apparently had like some new theme music and stuff set up for when he was going to supposedly turn heel back then, and they wound up not pulling the trigger for whatever reason. My line of thinking ultimately is Vince McMahon was way too afraid of the idea of losing that cash cow of John Cena because of like the merchandise and, the kids and the Make-A-Wishes and everything that came along with John Cena. And they could not find a suitable replacement. They tried very hard with Roman Reigns. He ultimately wound up panning out, obviously, but the route that it took and how long it took was, that wasn't the plan from the start. He didn't main event, he wasn't a part of like the main event or like major storylines for the first like 7 years of his career, every WrestleMania, like as a babyface to become a heel this late on, you know what I mean? But it wound up working out the way that it did, and it wound up working out great. But my point is, Cena, I think Vince was just like, he was way too afraid to do it for similar reasons where like he wouldn't change people's gear or theme music, or things just got like way too familiar for him, the way he would trademark stuff or whatever. Triple H clearly, and the new regime clearly has, the ability to adapt and make big decisions that go against the grain of what the previous regime would have done. But maybe as importantly, and everyone who watches this knows I'm very biased towards Cody Rhodes. Yeah, it is what it is. But I don't think it can be understated how important it is that they have Cody in the position that Cody's in for them to be able to do their stuff that they're doing with everybody else. Like, you have to have, like, and that was a big part of the thing with Cena, was they couldn't really find his successor. Cody is the successor. Like, he's the successor as the top babyface, as the guy who does the Make-A-Wishes, as, not necessarily a white meat babyface. He's out there dropping F-bombs. You know what I mean? But someone that the kids can look up to. And, it was just the combination of all that stuff, I feel like made it so that because Cody's in the spot that he's in, and a lot of that has to go to credit to Roman also. Like Roman elevated to a level where it meant a lot when Cody beat him for the title as well. So now that they're in this position with Cody, they actually can make these kind of decisions where, like, at this point in Cena's career, on one hand, honestly, it might boost his merch sales because people have been wanting him to turn heel for so long. It'll be cool to get like different John Cena merchandise and stuff like that. So people will probably buy the heck out of his stuff. But even if they took any kind of dip in their merchandise sales on Cena's end, they're more than making up for it with the amount of Cody Rhodes fans that there are on top of CM Punk fans and Seth Rollins fans and so on and so forth. They have a lot of real stars. Rhea Ripley, massive star. I was shocked to see her lose to Io Sky on Raw. Although I do think she'll get into that match still. I think it'll be a triple threat with Io, Rhea, and Rio, Io, and Bianca, of course. Bianca winning the Royal Rumble. But it's one of those things, like Pile Driver Finisher says in the chat, it's a once-in-a-lifetime moment that we got to see with the John Cena heel turn. And, you know, it's set up by this new regime. We got to give, you know, there's a lot of things to criticize WWE management for like various reasons, right? But one thing that I think we can all agree on is at least Triple H is out there. He's going for it. Like, he's making very big decisions. Like, he wasn't, they were talking about a, you know, like an industry changing moment. And this actually was, they're in tune way more with what the common or current pro wrestling fan wants. And they're way more in tap with how to touch the mainstream. You know, obviously Vince had a strong track record of doing that as well with various, you know, celebrity cameos over the years as well. But this is a different level of star and social media and stuff nowadays. Like, me personally, I don't know a whole lot about Travis Scott. I actually know more about his shoe than I know about him or his music, to be completely honest. But the fact that he has a shoe that's so popular that I know about it, I know Dana White wears Travis Scott's. You know what I mean? I honestly couldn't name one Travis Scott song, but I know he has a shoe brand that's like insanely expensive and successful. Like, that's how famous that guy is. So it makes sense he's involved in something like this when they're trying to reach the mainstream in the way that they are. I think we have someone joining me, actually. Take me out of my misery a little bit trying to do this myself. Jeremy Lambert.
How do you feel?
I don't know how much of that you got to catch, so I don't know where you're at in my rant so far.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
How do you feel knowing there's only 45 days left in Cody Rhodes' title reign?
Oh, dude, not even. So we can get into that. I was kind of getting there to I was at the John Cena heel turn basically, but we can fast forward a little bit. So everyone knows what happened. I don't have to go over step by step what happened to that heel turn. Literally everyone has seen it probably multiple times by now if you're listening to this podcast. So what I'm expecting is, especially because Cena was already going bald, like he was always like messing with his hair, like anyway, like in between every move. And I was already thinking like, dude, just shave it off. And now CM Punk's, you know, talking about these bald guys and everything. I think that Cena is I think he's going to shave bald. I think he's going to change up his theme music. I think we're going to get like a totally different John Cena up until, you know, I don't know how long they'll stretch this, but there will eventually, before he retires, there will be a Cena redemption arc where he, you know, retires as the hero. And I don't know if they wait later to get him the title for that reason, or if they're going to do like he does beat Cody at WrestleMania and then Cody beats him in his last match and it's Cena's like send off and he actually endorses Cody on the way out. Like, I do think Cena's going to win number 17 before the end of the year. absolutely. But I still don't think that it's necessary for that to happen and for Cody Rhodes to lose at WrestleMania.
Jensen, Cody's losing at WrestleMania. I just want you to come to grips with this. You have 45 days to come to grips at Cody Rhodes' reign. It'll be a year long. He had a really nice reign with memorable title defenses against Logan Paul and some other guys, and
Shinsuke.
memorable stuff against
Owens.
Roman Reigns returned during his title reign. I remember that. Roman Reigns and
there.
Cody teamed in the main event. I remember that.
In Atlanta. I was there.
And then Cody, I'm sure he did some other stuff during this year-long reign that was maybe of importance. My memory is not great right now. I'm very sick. I'm on some medicine. So I apologize. But you got 45 days to come to grips that it's over.
I have been, and by I mean me and Cody, and I feel like I've been the WWE champion for the last almost 365 days. So we have.
Do you have the fake title? Do you walk around like The Rock with a fake title?
No, I do not. I'm not big on the replica title belts, to be fair. I own 2. One of them I won from Wrestle Rumble. RIP Wrestle Rumble. I love you, Matt. I hope you come back and do Wrestle Rumble one day. But I also have so I won like an NXT replica title from an actual Wrestle Rumble contest. And then the only other replica belt I have is I have like the toy like the AEW world title, just because it was like the first piece of AEW merch that I ever saw like in person, like in like retail. I was like, oh sweet, AEW finally has merch. So it was the only thing they had, so I bought that. So not big on the replica titles. Not hating on people who have them. I know it's an expensive hobby, and I'm sure you're very proud of your title belts, but yeah, not for me. But I will say this, I have thought about buying. It's way too expensive, but if it ever drops in price, you've seen it actually.
That American Nightmare title. Yeah.
Well, it's like that thing that like it had like it was in a big case at like one of the super stores.
It was at the SummerSlam Superstore.
Yeah, Gunner has one, of course,
yeah.
Mounted on his wall. Gunner's
all those are way too expensive. I can't imagine spending that kind of money on these titles.
Listen, I mean, I'm surrounded by stuff that I've spent a lot of money on that was like completely unnecessary. So it's like, I get it.
No, I support people who do it. I also believe those people probably don't have 12 kids. So, dropping like $600 on a title that you're just going to display behind you when you have so many kids and exactly, can't exactly go down that route.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And that actually reminded me, I actually have hit a few first half NBA unders on my boys.
This guy.
So the last few days, I've actually been doing all right.
You didn't bet on Shea to hit his under, did you? Because he screwed you.
No.
He never goes under the first half. I always bet him to go over in the first half.
Yeah, well, he's always like the highest projection. Also, he's always projected to have like 16 points in the first half, and he's the only person that has a number that high that I won't take an under on. Anyone, there's most of the guys that I take. I hit on James Harden. I didn't mean to say that. I won a parlay that included a James Harden under a couple nights ago. But like Kawhi went off, and I didn't take Kawhi under, but like I saw Kawhi had gone off, and then I read that Kawhi wasn't going to play last night, so I was like, oh, they're probably just going to have Harden like doing everything, and he had like 20 something in the first half, so I was like, I'm glad I paid attention. Yeah. So
you got to check the injury report. That's good. You're getting sharp, Jensen. I respect it.
Yeah, man. Won a little on Counter-Strike 2 today as well. Been playing that literally nonstop.
All the hotline.
I always have Counter-Strike 2 parlays going.
I'm gonna
constantly.
Always remind you to call the hotline.
Always happening.
I can't support gambling on other people playing video games. I can't do it.
It's so much fun to watch.
I mean, I'm sure it is, but like I don't want these people responsible for my money. That sounds terrible.
As the kids would say, it's lit AF.
Did the kids say that?
It's lit AF. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So John Cena turned heel. Were you surprised? Like, what was your reaction when you saw this?
So when all three, well, I should say four, including Travis Scott, were in the ring.
Yeah, he rules.
He rules for legit hitting Cody in the head. Yeah, good
Cody
job,
said he's
dude.
fine. Cody said he's fine.
Dude, no, I mean, dude, Cody Rhodes has wrestled with I wasn't questioning if he's gonna be WrestleMania or not. The dude wrestled with his arm falling off in Hell in a Cell. Like, I'm not concerned about a little ear bruise or whatever. But like, I think that so obviously The Rock's a heel. You know that going into the segment. Travis Scott is associated with The Rock, so as I was saying before you got in here, I'm in the camp of people that, like, I can't name a Travis Scott song, but like I know he has the shoes. Like, I'm very aware that he's massively famous. Like, I get that.
Everyone knows this song. Fiend, 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 Fiend. They play that song like 300 times during the shows.
Yeah.
That's a Travis Scott song.
Yeah. But like, it's one of those things where I know of that song, but like, until recently, I wouldn't have known it was him, like, specifically. You know, I just don't know much about it. But my point is,
you know, the kids say lit AF, but you don't know that Travis Scott goes fiend, 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 fiend.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, but I will say the reason it doesn't matter if I really knew much about him or not, because he has like tens of millions of followers on like every platform, and that's what the WWE, like, this is strategic, obviously, and it's smart of them to do stuff like this. Like, this is even different than, obviously, like, Dennis Rodman was massively famous. That's what I see a lot of people comparing, like, the Rodman stuff to what they've seen from Travis Scott so far. And the Rodman thing, I mean, Rodman was worldwide insanely famous back in an era before social media even existed. Like, that's a different type of fame, but Travis Scott can instantly, literally with a click of a button, reach like 100 million people. And it's like that. And that's what, I mean, that's huge advertising for the WWE. It's very similar to the reason Logan Paul has been involved. And the only reason Logan Paul is as involved as he is now is because of how good he is. Like, he's stuck around on a regular basis. And it sounds like Travis Scott is going to be training, and he's going to have some sort of match, and Cody will get some sort of receipt. So I'm looking forward to that. But I think that the actual segment, you asked me a minute ago if I saw it coming. Knowing that The Rock is a heel, and knowing that Cody's going to say no, and knowing that Travis Scott's a heel as well, and Cena, the thing with Cena is he's been doing this act for a while of like, I'm just happy to be back and doing this. Like, he's like been like too happy-go-lucky. But at the end of the Chamber match, when Rollins stomped CM Punk, and Cena like clearly saw it all happen and took advantage of that to choke Punk out, that was between that and like what I was seeing surround Cody Rhodes at the moment. That's when it started like really hitting me like, I don't think Cody's turning. Cena's still in the ring. Holy shit. Cena's about to turn, I think. Like, and I'm sure a lot of people, that was how their line of thinking as this all went down. And I love the way that they did it with like the way that Cena hugged Cena hugged Cody, and then he's looking at The Rock, and The Rock gives him the thing with the fingers. That's like a callback to the countdown and Bad Bull. Or they're trying to tie it all together. I get that. But but the point is they're trying, and it is a long-term story, and the way that they've gotten here, I love that they've done it. Like, we've wanted for so long to see John Cena actually turn heel. I'd say better late than never. And this isn't even, I was saying before you got here, this isn't even possible for them to do if Cody isn't so over as their top babyface. Like, because a big reason why Vince McMahon, and I'm sure Triple H to some degree, would have been skeptical or not wanted to ever turn Cena is because of the Make-A-Wishes and because of the merch sales and because of the popularity. And they tried with Roman Reigns and it worked out in a different way, but they never had that successor to John Cena where they could even test the waters like this. But since they have Cody as the actual successor to John Cena, they can't afford now to have John Cena turn and do all this, because Cody can pick up the slack of everything else that they'd be losing with John Cena turning. So it's a credit to everybody involved. And then the way they beat the hell out of Cena, the way they beat the hell out of Cody afterwards too, like they brutally beat him down, they bloodied him. Travis Scott looked like a great villain out there, you know, with the other guys. Like, I thought it was brilliant. Like, this is, I know it's like recency bias and all this and that, but like this really is up there. We got to see where it all goes, obviously, but it really is up there with like the actual moment of like Hogan turning and, you know, some of the honestly like tip top biggest moments I've actually seen ever as a wrestling fan.
Once they were all in the ring together, yeah, there was that inkling of, oh, they might do this with Cena. And then especially after Cody told Rock to go fuck himself, and then Cena was celebrating, I was like, oh yeah, this is coming. They're actually going to do this with John Cena. It didn't take away from the moment, mind you. Like, the whole thing still completely ruled. And like, I'm happy they did it. My expectation was always like Drew McIntyre. I kept my expectation low. I was like, yeah, Drew makes sense from a character perspective, from a relationship with The Rock perspective. There might be some, oh, well, he's got beef with the bloodline type thing, but you could kind of flip that in, well, Drew is aligned with The Rock. Maybe The Rock has issues with the bloodline, and you could play off of that. And like The Rock's doing his own thing. He's above the bloodline. You could easily play that up if that's the direction that they went. So that was my expectation. I was more than happy that John Cena was the way, because I think you're going to get a year of some really good stories. And I assume Cena will be back to the good side by the end of the year, so everybody can like celebrate and it be very nice for John Cena. But until then, I think we're going to get some really good stuff. And I do hope they bring somebody else with them, because Rock ain't making the towns. Cena's making limited towns. Feels like you need like a third person who's there nearly every week, who can be elevated from this whole thing as well. Because as cool as like it is that John Cena is doing this, John Cena doesn't need to be elevated to any type of spot.
No, I've thought about this, and like I have not. I'm sure people have discussed it. I just haven't heard anybody bring this up anywhere that I've been tapped into. But like, hear me out here. Like, in this,
if you say Logan Paul,
no. Well, I'm not. I'm going to say someone who I don't think will be there all the time, but I think will make some sort of appearance with this alliance. The Hulkster. Like, imagine the amount of heat, because he already is so hated. Like, if he comes out there and endorses, you have The Rock, Hogan, and Cena, like out in the ring, or however far Hogan can get to the ring. I don't know. He might have to stay on the entrance ramp, but I'm just saying, like, because people are already ready to boo Hulk Hogan out of the building. You have him go out there and endorse John Cena. Like, because it actually makes sense with the tie-in with like the NWO. I'm not saying he's like recreating the NWO, but I'm just saying, you know, like and then on the flip side, we'll go back around. We'll try to figure out if someone else on a regular basis can join them, because I think that's an interesting idea. But the other thing that immediately came to mind, Jeremy, was there's a other humongous redemption story to be told in the main event of WrestleMania this year. And another reason why I think that Cody Rhodes is going to defeat John Cena in the main event of WrestleMania this year. We didn't see it last year. This year, Stone Cold Steve Austin actually is coming out and stunnering The Rock, leading to Cody Rhodes beating John Cena.
Oh, okay. So I half jokingly pitched that Cena doesn't win the title this year. And the reason is because he turned. And the moral of the story is stick with your principles, stick with your hustle, loyalty, respect, never give up. That's how you won 16. You sold your soul to try to win 17, but you got 16 as this guy. Now you failed by selling your soul to try to win 17. And maybe he gets at the end of the year. Maybe he comes to that realization and they do give him 17 at the end of the year because of reasons. He doesn't have to beat Cody or anything. They got 2 world titles. He can win one of them. Right. So maybe that's the direction that they go. I don't think so. I think it would be, I don't want to say a massive failure. I think it would be a huge misfire if you do this John Cena heel turn and then have him lose to Cody in the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah, I get it. But on the flip side, I also feel like you would want to see him win number 17 as a good guy. But like, the other thing that I'm torn on is because they have the 2 world titles. Like, it almost feels almost like a cop out for him to win the other world title, whoever is the champion at the time. Like, and I'm not saying that's like, they've done a good job with the world championship. Like, I'm not saying it's like a totally worthless belt, but in comparison to the WWE title, when John Cena has been synonymous, although John Cena held the world title a lot, the big gold belt a whole lot as well. Hey, they got a relationship with TNA Wrestling. Jump on over there, win number 17. Pop a rating for TNA. Yeah,
Joe Hendry's begging for it. So,
yeah, I know he is. Good for him for calling his shot. Shooting his shot. But there's no chance in hell that match is happening in TNA. But Joe Hendry might wrestle John Cena before the end of the year. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who do you like? Did you have anyone in mind as far as like if they needed another person to join that group that could be their weekly?
I would love if they like actually elevated someone into that spot, like someone like a Montez Ford. Like why not put him there? He was a big fan of The Rock growing up. He's made no secret about that. Like, why not put him in that spot and give him the ball and like run with him as a singles guy that we've kind of all been waiting for them to run with him as a singles guy for years now, it feels like. So that was my first name, but I don't think they're going to elevate him to that level. So it feels like if they're
a huge leap.
Yeah. But sometimes you got to do that with guys. It's not like Ford hasn't been there for a long time. He's done everything he can do with the tag team division. I know they're heels now, and like they're doing pretty good work as heels in the division. But I feel like everybody knows Montez is like ready for that, and they just keep putting him in the tag team. I'm fine if you go like Ford and Dawkins if you really need to. If you want to keep them as a tag team, fine, but just lift them up to a higher level. And then maybe you can start to see, oh yeah, Ford's really got something as a singles guy. The same thing, it's like what they did with the Usos, right? They elevated them as a tag team with the bloodline stuff. And then they saw, oh, we got something as a singles guy with Jay. And Jimmy's like still doing okay as a singles guy. He's still in the mix and everything. He's not on the level of Jay.
Well, what about him then?
Who?
Like Jimmy in the spot that you're talking about. Because he beat Drew McIntyre a few weeks ago. Like he's completely lost out of the mix of all of this stuff with the rest of his family. Like we still don't know what. By the way, I still don't know what the hell they're doing with Roman Reigns. Outside of
that's the weird
threat,
one.
maybe.
Yeah,
we'll get back to that. But like, I'm not necessarily advocating for Jimmy. I'm just saying like he's like really the odd man out in all of this because like you also have a clear path for like Solo and Jacob at some point. Like Jimmy's just like left out.
Jacob would be another name of like, oh, you can really, really make him. I think they're fine on like the path he's on right now because they clearly see something in him and they're clearly going to elevate him at some point. So maybe they don't want to like fully rush that, but you could really, really make him. You know who'd be like good in this spot? Someone like a Braun Breaker. Like get him up there and really elevate him to that spot. So I would like to see them actually elevate a guy off of this because the Rock's not wrong on this kind of stuff. One, you got to make sure you're picking the right guy because if you're not picking the right guy and it fails, then you got bigger issues. But what I talk about the Rock's not wrong is like his influence and everything, like his following. Didn't we do this on the show last week of how many followers this dude has? Like it's absurd.
Like 400 million for The Rock. Yeah.
If The Rock is just tweeting like once a month, twice a month of like, hey, Braun Breaker is doing great work. Watch him on Raw. And The Rock's just putting him over on social media a couple times a month. Like that is a lot for a guy's profile. And Braun Breaker's in the tax commercials now. They got him doing that kind of stuff. So you could really like actually make a guy off of this. If The Rock is also willing to, put in 5 minutes of work on social media for a couple times a month.
Yeah, I'm with you. I honestly hadn't even considered the idea. Oh, I kind of had, but like I was thinking more along the lines of like someone else, like bigger stars coming back and joining them, like part time, like to build this up. Like people throwing like Batista's name out there and that kind of stuff.
That'd be cool if Batista came out there. I love Batista, but
I know you shut it down, but like I honestly think that if Logan Paul is full time, he actually fits the bill like better than anybody we've brought up to this point. Like he's a massive social media star who's actually good in the ring, and
I know you know this as well. I don't know what Logan Paul and The Rock's relationship is actually like. Like you've heard the stories of how they had like the fallout and The Rock cut him off and everything. And Logan has talked about like wanting to make amends, but he also kind of wants like The Rock to make the first move. They were obviously backstage together last year at various events, but Logan's never brought it up again. The Rock's never been asked about it. So I don't know what their like actual relationship is like. And obviously if that's not solved, I can't imagine there's going to be some type of like on-screen thing with them.
But I mean, if it has been fixed, then
I don't need part-time guys continuing to be elevated off of this. I know what you mean of like, oh, you got John Cena, you got Travis Scott. Why not Batista? Why not Hulk Hogan? Why not Logan Paul? It's like, this doesn't serve the guys who are there the entire time. And something like this, something this big, you would think you want to serve at least one person who's there full time.
Yeah. Outside of Cody Rhodes, because this massively serves Cody Rhodes because he's like looked at as the same star as those guys.
Yeah, but he's
but he's part of the story, like the match that we're gonna wind up seeing. But yeah, we'll see. I'm intrigued by the idea of more people getting involved in this. I do honestly think like there's good names in here. Like you mentioned, Braun Breaker, Power Driver Finisher agrees. Ryan Adams, Skull Vikings. He says Bronson Reed. I mean, I like Bronson a lot. Ryan also
he's injured right now.
Oh, he jumped off the cage. Ryan Adams with the super chat earlier, I didn't want to miss. Says, so is the AA once again the FU? Maybe. Like honestly, I feel like I saw heard somebody refer to the STF as the STFU at some point on TV recently. I could be totally wrong, but like I know they didn't call it that in the Elimination Chamber because I've been listening for it since I feel like I heard it recently. But my point is, I could totally see them. I mean, we're in a different. They're still obviously trying to massively appeal to kids, like with the product. But if they're going to be out there actually dropping F-bombs, I feel like it's okay to say FU or STFU, like, especially nowadays with like, I don't have kids. I know you do. You could probably better relate to or know about where I'm getting at here. But like, I'm sure you're at a pretty young age, you have some sort of form of technology to where what like STFU means, like pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I don't think they're like breaking any. This isn't like it was back in the day where like you're teaching kids a bad word. Like they already know the vernacular before they tuned into this WWE show.
Yeah. The kids know the terms no matter their age. So yeah, you're right. And like maybe they'll change it up. Who knows? I was just happy he sunk that STFU in a little bit on CM Punk.
That's one I've ever seen, dude. That was probably the best STFU I have ever seen.
That's when you knew he was going heel. He's like, oh, I'm going to actually get ruthless with this thing.
Yeah. Yes. And that leads me kind of back to something I brought up a second ago because it ties in here. We saw Seth Rollins curb stomp CM Punk before what we just mentioned with STF. It's pretty well. We're going to get CM Punk and Seth Rollins in the cage. do you think that they're still going to wrestle each other at WrestleMania, or like is this where like that finally gets squashed, but like Roman returns or something to set up him and Punk or him and Rollins, or like do we get a 3-way? Like how does Roman Reigns has somehow become the odd man out in this entire WrestleMania?
It feels like because they're doing this cage match at Madison Square Garden, it is to set up the 3-way with Roman at WrestleMania. How you get there, I think it could be something as simple as Roman, excuse me, Roman targets Seth in the cage match. So Seth is close to the door or something, and here comes Roman. He slams the door on Seth's head. And then maybe Punk wins, or Punk just looks at him. Maybe Roman gets in the cage and just beats the shit out of both guys because he doesn't like either of them. And we get a non-finish in this cage match. And that's how you get to the triple threat. Like it could honestly be as simple as that. Because I think if you do a clean finish in this match, like with no Roman or anything, it feels like Seth's got to win because Punk's been getting the up on him at every turn. Beat him at Raw, Netflix premiere, pinned him in the chamber, eliminated him from Royal Rumble. Like Seth's got nothing in this feud. So if you're not going to do a Roman interference finish, feels like Seth has actually got to win this one.
Yeah, I completely agree there. Seth needs to win. If there's going to be a winner in this match, although like I don't hate the idea of Roman coming out and just beating them both down. Like it's not like the worst idea considering how everything was last seen, like with them all at the Royal Rumble. Like it would make sense. But I completely agree. If there is a winner, if there's a definitive winner between Rollins and Punk, it should be Rollins because they need to even that out more. I'm obviously not a huge fan of like 50-50 booking everything, but like when you spread the matches out enough and there's enough on the line and you're a star of like a certain level, like I know that CM Punk, like mainstream wise and stuff, he's probably still like a bigger name to most than Seth Rollins, but like Rollins is still like one of their guys. Like he is in a upper echelon, rarefied air level of WWE superstar who's been there this whole time and like gaining equity in the company constantly year over year to build the good faith that he has with the fan base to be the level he's at. So like you can't, I also don't think you can set a precedent of like, you know, obviously I'm kind of contradicting myself. Cody obviously left for a long time, came back. He's now the WWE champion. He's had a lot of success since coming back, but like, I also don't think that someone, because this happened to Seth Rollins. Honestly, like this happened specifically to Seth Rollins with Cody Rhodes, and then it's happening again with CM Punk. And it's like if I was Seth Rollins, I'd be a little bit like, "Come on, guys! Like, I've been here the whole time. Like, I've never left. I've always done nothing but talk about how much like these guys like." He hates CM Punk partly because of what CM Punk used to say about the WWE, and Rollins always defended them. And Rollins used to get a lot of flack. Like a lot of the fan base used to think that Seth Rollins was annoying when he would defend the WWE back then because the WWE was so bad when he was defending them. But like to Seth's credit, he has been a loyal soldier for that company. And he's had a lot of success there and he should be kept at a high level. He's one of the most over guys that they have consistently. Everyone does that hums with the theme song and everything. I mean, like, he constantly changes his look every show. He's very invested. You know, the fans are invested in him. Like, so he should be on the same level, if not higher than CM Punk, in my opinion. But I'm also not like delusional enough to be like, don't push CM Punk or CM Punk shouldn't be in the world title mix or main eventing WrestleMania potentially and this kind of stuff. He should be. He's a huge star and he's doing very well on their shows. So like, I get that, but also I don't want to see it all at the expense of Seth Rollins.
Yeah, Seth is I mean, he's the bridesmaid. That's who he's kind of always been. And I think he, at least the character kind of knows that. And that's why he wants to continue to like cut everyone off because he knows he's lower on the depth chart than these guys. You know, he knew Roman was the guy in the Shield. And that's why he turned his back on the Shield and aligned with the Authority so he could be the guy. And then Roman was still always the guy And, the one time Seth was kind of pushed to that level, it sadly kind of flopped, and it wasn't through his own fault. He got put in that terrible feud with the Fiend, and then they did that terrible cage match, and it was a disaster that, again, was not totally his fault, but that was where he was at. And then he wants a big WrestleMania match, and here's Cody Rhodes back in the mix. So Cody Rhodes has surpassed him. Here comes CM Punk back in the mix. CM Punk has surpassed him. Drew is getting a little past his level. Roman is obviously still Roman. He's at a higher level now. Cena's back. Well, Cena's going to be past him in the depth chart. Rock, whenever he decides to come in and blow things up, whoever The Rock decides to put in that spot is there. So yeah, the paranoid Seth Rollins on screen is very good in trying to halt these momentums because he wants to be that guy so bad.
Do you think, if you had to put money on it, would you say they do a triple threat at WrestleMania? Because I can't see another scenario where, I think it makes more sense to do Rollins and Reigns straight up, personally. But Punk, I definitely don't want to see Punk. I saw Scott George mention, I definitely don't want to see Punk inserted in the Cena Cody match. That has to be one-on-one after what we saw at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
But there also is the lingering favor from Paul Heyman, but that doesn't have to be used by WrestleMania. Punk could do that later in the year. I mean, to get what he wants out of that. So what would you say? Do you think it's going to be a triple threat, or do you have any other way? Or if it isn't, what do they do?
I think it's going to be a triple threat. And if it isn't, I don't know. I really don't, because I'm trying to, you do Roman and Rollins, but where does that leave Punk? You're probably not going back to Punk and Drew, even though I'm sure Drew would love that. You're probably not going back to that. Yeah, Punk being inserted, that being the favor to get him into that match. One I don't like, because you've done it. You've got it with Cody and Cena. You don't need Punk added that. Two, if I'm Roman and I'm like, oh, hold on, you got this guy in this match, you can't do this for me. Then I feel Roman would probably try to get himself into the match. So that's where, and then Seth Rollins just out again. Maybe they do I joked about it last week, a bloodline member in every corner. And that's what they do. Now Cena's got The Rock in his corner. CM Punk's got Paul Heyman. Cody's got Jey Uso, and Roman can have Jimmy. And there you go. You got a bloodline member in every corner for WrestleMania.
Ryan with another super chat. Thank you very much, Ryan. And Skull Vikings. Ryan Adams says, her storyline reasons the third man can be someone close to Cody, like Randy Orton, or maybe someone maybe Cena has been on TV with, like Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo looks like they're doing some weird tag team with The Miz, so I kind of rule that out probably. Listen, I'm a Miz guy. It just seems like a weird, sweet double tag team finisher though. The way that they incorporated their two moves together actually worked out pretty well. But I've thought about Randy Orton a little bit as well, maybe getting involved with this, but he fits on one hand. Obviously, he has the long history with Cena, but I think that it makes more sense, a Cena heel against a face Randy Orton. I don't know if we've seen that, and if we have, it hasn't been since 2003. You know what I mean? Because Cena's been a babyface the entire time since then. Yeah. So this is just a crazy opportunity for Cody to actually have, for Cena to actually have matches, rematches against people he's fought in the past, but the tables are completely turned where it's, Cena's the heel now and they're the babyface. So, but I do think that Randy Orton is going to get some sort of title shot against Cody at some point. I don't, once again, I'm also, when I say some of this stuff, you also have to keep in mind, as much as I want to see Cody Rhodes have, the longest WWE Championship reign in history, I'm also speaking from the perspective of if that doesn't happen, I'm sure this isn't the only time Cody Rhodes is ever going to be the world champion in the WWE at this point. He's going to be a multi-time champion. So I at some point in the future, we will get a Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes world title feud before Randy's done. I'm confident of that.
I would expect that as well. Now it's probably kicked down the road a little bit because, everyone theorized, oh, Randy's going to turn on Cody. Randy's going to turn on Cody. And then Kevin turned on Cody. And now you have Cena turning. So Randy's probably not going to turn anytime soon. But yeah, I imagine within the next couple of years, we'll get back to that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I once again I love the heel turn. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. I hope Seth Rollins doesn't get lost in the mix. I've seen a lot of people talking about Seth in the chat. Like, is Seth even him turning isn't like the worst idea, depending on how they do it. He's already a tweener. Like, it just depends on who he's wrestling, kind of. Like, he's loved by the fans and he gets a huge reaction, but he fights a lot of baby faces too, or at least pisses a lot of them off. And CM Punk's kind of in between as well, depending on how you view him. But like, there's this whole built-in thing with Rollins' huge redemption last year, helping Cody in the main event, and Roman choosing to hit Rollins instead of Cody, which cost them the title. That all comes full circle if you do Roman versus Seth this year. That whole story wraps up, which I personally want to see. So once again, I don't know where Kai says, so what if nobody cares about what you want, Steven? That's true. If I would recommend probably not listening to the show if you don't care about what I think about, because I talk a lot on here. Yeah, I don't know. What any additional or closing thoughts on the Cena stuff, or where like what or Punk or anything that we've had recently, like since Elimination Chamber?
45 days, Jensen.
45 days. Do you think the women's match is going to be triple threat? Do you think they do Io, Rhea, and Bianca?
That seems to be the chatter there. I'll be curious to how Rhea gets herself in there, because she was a dummy and just lost. So how does she get in there to make it a triple threat match?
I don't know. I just feel like Rhea won't get left out. It just feels like a weird decision to make. Like, listen, I love Io. I really do. I think she's fantastic. And I love Bianca. I think she's incredibly, incredibly talented. I had made a mistake the other week. I had mentioned that for some reason I thought that Rhea and Bianca had wrestled at WrestleMania before, but what I was actually thinking of was their time in the Royal Rumble against each other, like the end of like the Royal Rumble and stuff. So they actually haven't wrestled at WrestleMania one-on-one. And I feel like that's a huge first time title match for the WWE, Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. Maybe they wait until next WrestleMania to do that, because it'll still be a huge match a year from now. But once again, as an Io Sky fan, like I like that she's in the mix. And she's the champion. But like, it just seemed kind of out of left field when you had Rhea versus Bianca right there.
Yeah, it was very surprising that Io won the title on Raw. Like, I was happily surprised. It was a cool moment for Io, and I got no problem with Io kind of being added to the match, because Io also rules. So it should be a great match. Like, I think if Punk, Seth, and Roman, if there's no title on the line, like, I think that women's triple threat should headline night one.
I don't completely disagree. Like, I wouldn't be mad about it. I do think that in the WWE's mind, night one of WrestleMania ends with the crowd doing the yeet. Like,
you think
I think Jey Uso beats Gunther in the main event of night one.
Oh, okay. I'm not fully mad if that headlines night one, because so my thought on this has always been, you either got to have a women's match headline night one, or you got to have a Rumble winner headline night one. Assuming, again, that Punk, Seth, and Roman is not for a title. If it's for a title, if somehow they get the world heavyweight title on one of these guys, then fine. That's your night one headliner. No complaints, no arguments there. But if it's a non-title thing, it feels like you got to have one of the women's title headlined or one of the Rumble winners headlined, because otherwise it just looks a little lame if you don't do that. Like, I don't think it sends the greatest message in the world either to the entire locker room of they preach so much about Rumble winner gets a headline spot, it gets the main event, and then, oh, here we go. Neither Rumble winner got a WrestleMania main event. They preach so much about the women and how all the great work they're doing, and then, oh, neither women's title match gets the main event. I understand that Roman, Punk, and Seth are huge stars, and the story's there for those guys. It's not like the stories, there's not a good story to go with it, but I understand that they're all big stars and everything, but I think they'll be okay if they don't get a WrestleMania main event. Seth got his, Roman's got $1 million. Punk claims he's okay if he doesn't have one. So
that's what he's saying right now. But yeah, I think well, I agree that I don't think that triple threat match should main event night one, regardless if it's non-title, which I don't think there's going to be a title on the line. Like the triple threat with the men. I do think that like there's a legitimate discussion or argument that could be made that the women triple threat could. I mean, not even just. I mean, what would? I know people are down on Charlotte a lot of the time, but like, is Charlotte and Tiffany, like, is that completely out of the picture for main event?
They got to do something in the next. I mean, they got time. They got 6 weeks. They got to do something in those next 6 weeks to really heat it up, because it feels a little cold right now. Like Charlotte just coming back, and I love Charlotte. Everyone knows I love Charlotte. This current like dismissive sort of character ain't working a whole lot for me. Like it's not even that the character is necessarily bad. She's like, oh, okay. She's just Charlotte Flair again. Like, she doesn't even feel very into it. When she was on commentary the other week, man, that was rough. Like, she just wasn't given anything on commentary. And Tiffany's been teaming with Trish Stratus and facing Nia and Candice. Like, she hasn't even really interacted all that much. They did the one promo together. Yeah, it feels it's not super hot right now. Like the Bianca, Io, and Rhea stuff feels way hotter. And look, obviously it's a little bit hotter because you just had the title change on Monday. But even before that, like Bianca and Rhea felt like a bigger deal than Charlotte and Tiffany.
Yeah, like I think like if it was Bianca, and once again, I don't want this to come across like I'm anti-Io, because like I just think like Bianca versus Rhea, if that match was set in stone as a one-on-one match, I feel like that would have had a really, really good shot at main eventing WrestleMania. It's just a one-on-one singles match. But for whatever reason, I feel like and there's no real reasoning behind this other than like tradition to some degree. And we've had multi-man matches in the main event of WrestleMania before. It's not like it's never happened. But I just feel like, you know, if it was one-on-one, I feel like it would have a better chance of being the main event for whatever reason. And I still think regardless that Jey Uso wins the main. And I'm with everyone. Like, I feel like the women, obviously, a lot of the women are just as over as the top men. I mean, like in WWE, like Rhea specifically, I think is like, they have, it's you can't even put into words how valuable it is to have someone like Rhea Ripley on your roster. Like there are people that aren't even wrestling fans that see her on like social media and don't even know what WWE is, and then start watching WWE just because they've seen Rhea Ripley for the first time. Like, she draws people in. She has like I've never seen, it's been, I shouldn't say never, but it's rare that I see people so quickly drawn to a wrestler. And I see it happen with her constantly. And she's so good in the ring, and she's so unique. And then I can say a lot of the same things about someone like Bianca and about someone like Io, you know, Charlotte. Like, they have some really, really huge. Becky's not there anymore, or at the moment, but like if she comes back, I mean, another huge female star. Like, so I think that they're absolutely capable and like deserve to be in a WrestleMania main event. And we've seen women main event WrestleMania in the past. But the reactions Jey Uso's getting also can't be denied. Like when I was at Raw in Atlanta, I don't even know what they showed on screen. But like he came out, I think it was like around the time Kai Cenat came out and like hyped the crowd up. But Jey Uso came out and he did the whole yeet thing for like probably 3 to 5 minutes straight. Just came out in the crowd, out on the announce table with Pat McAfee, and everyone in that building. Because I was in a box with people that weren't wrestling fans. Like they were I was like filling them in all night on like what was happening on the show, and they were all doing it. The whole crowd was doing it. My brother was like, "This is the like." Because my brother's been to a few shows with me over the last couple of years where Jey Uso keeps getting a louder and louder and louder reaction. My brother's like, he might get the loudest of all of them right now. I mean, like, and that's the truth. Like, and they do it for a long time out there. That gets tiring doing that with your arms over and over. But my point is like, they do have something special with Jey. I do think that there's, on one hand, like, I'll be real. The match with Jimmy Uso at last year's WrestleMania was not good. It was it was a big storyline, a really important storyline on a really stacked 2 nights of shows, especially night 2. And Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, I think, kind of dropped the ball as far as like the in-ring match goes, unfortunately. But since then, he's been super over with the crowd. And really recently, in my opinion, he had a banger against Gunther at Saturday Night's main event. I thought the match was great, and the crowd was ready to see him win the title that night. And they can replicate that plus more on the grand stage of WrestleMania. And that's similar. We were both there in the crowd. I got it right here behind me. Bryan Danielson. It's hard to see with my grainy camera. But like we were both there in the crowd at WrestleMania. Like that's what they want, I think, at the end of WrestleMania night 1 is the whole crowd doing the yeet together with Jey Uso finally winning that world title over Gunther. If the women main event, good. I'm happy for them. I'm not going to argue it at all. They deserve it. But you also can't deny where Jey Uso's at right now either.
No, I agree. Like Jey Uso he's one of the most over guys on the roster. They could easily main event that. And their segments together have been good. I haven't loved here's Gunther going and facing Tozawa and Otis and having more competitive matches than he needs to have. But like the Jey promos and the Gunther promos and their interactions, all that's been really good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I didn't realize how long we've been talking because I started the show off by myself, like just
I was not expecting to stay this long. I was just gonna come on and troll you about Cody being the champion for 45 more days, and then we just got kind of rolling because I'm not feeling great and I need to go take some more medicine. So, but I did want to make an appearance and say hi and troll you a little bit. Enjoy the AEW Revolution preview. Should be a great show. One of the best shows ever. It's a tremendous lineup. One of the best lineups ever. AEW Revolution's one of our biggest shows of the year. We have a great history with AEW Revolution. Last year, Sting retired in the main event of AEW Revolution. It was one of the biggest moments in AEW history and one of the most moments that I'm proud of in my time at AEW. And this year, we're going to have another great AEW Revolution from the Crypto.com Arena. Stupid name. From the Crypto.com Arena, AEW Revolution, Jon Moxley and Cope, Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita, Harley Cameron might be appearing, Tony Storm and Mariah May.
Yes,
that's all I got. I lost steam on my own Tony Khan impression.
Well, you did a great job promoting the show. I'm gonna transition that right into the bumper, and I'll do a preview. Thanks for jumping on here with me, Jeremy. Appreciate you. Hope you feel better soon.
Appreciate it, and I'm sure the interview is fantastic with Big Dave. I'm sad I missed that one because I pushed for him to be on this week, and I wanted to talk to him since I was like, we should get him on the show since you're picking him to win everything. So yeah, I'm sad that I missed that one, but I'll listen to it and get some articles out from it this weekend. So
awesome.
All right, catch y'all maybe tomorrow on the Weeds. We'll see how I'm feeling. Bye, everybody.
All right, well, it's back to just me, everyone. So for those of you who don't like listening to my voice or seeing my face, I have a microphone and you don't. So you'll listen to every damn word I have to say. All right, now let's move on to the AEW Spotlight.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. And it was a great show, and I think it's been a run of great shows.
That was a little bit of a reference to The Wedding Singer, one of my favorite movies of all time, starring Adam Sandler. Everyone, we have AEW Revolution coming up this weekend, this Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. March 9th, my brother's birthday, actually. So happy early birthday to Brian, my best friend, my brother. I'll be watching the show with him and my buddy Mike Hughes. Comes over for a lot of the AEW shows, so should be a good time watching some wrestling on Saturday night. DJ Duke, I did see this. You know what? I'll address this right now just quickly. This is non-AEW related, but it is TKO related, and we went past the WWE Spotlight, but I'll still. DJ Duke says in the chat, did you see TKO announcement of a new boxing league? I did. I'm very, very, very interested in it. I know people have a wide range of feelings about Dana White, business-wise and personally and politically. There's a lot of thoughts out there. A very polarizing man is Dana White. But one thing that I'm confident that he's going to do with the this whole boxing thing is, and I think I've seen Ariel Helwani already talk about it a little bit. I haven't been able to really catch up on any of his stuff like this week, but I saw like some little snippets. But what I assume is going to happen is, and the reason they're doing this is now they're not going to have to deal with all these other boxing, whatever you want to call them, not promotions, but like promoters, I guess more specifically. And like the boxing associations or regulators and that kind of stuff, that the ranking system, the way that it currently is, and the way that like top fighters won't fight each other for all these political reasons and stuff. I think that Dana White and this new boxing setup that they're putting together, I think they're going to throw a ton, I mean, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars at people. Scott George, sanctioning bodies. Thank you. That's really probably the most important word I was really trying to look for there. They're going to be their own sanctioning body, I would imagine, for something like this. So they'll have their own ranking system, they'll have their own titles, and they're going to have so much money that these other sanctioning bodies are going to be like, they're not going to be able to compete with it. And we're going to actually see huge fights happen for a ton of money, and it's going to completely buck the system in the way that things have been working in boxing for a long time. In my opinion, the main reason that boxing is in the state that it currently is, in like a negative light. I think that there's still some great boxers out there, but like as far as like popularity wise, especially in comparison to like MMA and the UFC on like a consistent basis. I'm not talking like, you're still going to have your occasional humongous mega boxing match, right? But that only happens like a few times a year. The UFC, every one of their shows is not a banger. Every one of their pay-per-views is not a banger, but pretty consistently, you get a really good UFC card from top to bottom on pay-per-view. And they do that all year, every year. So it's one of those things where, boxing, I think a large reason why boxing is in like the lull that it's been in is because it's so difficult to get the fights people want to see, because their promoters won't agree to let them fight each other and that kind of stuff. So I think Dana White's going to combat that by giving them a ton of money to fight for him. As far as my AEW predictions go, we're going to go through the card quickly here for AEW Revolution. Please let me know in the chat as I go through these if you agree, or give me your prediction for these matches as well. I'd love to see how y'all feel going into this show. As Jeremy mentioned, I know he was doing his Tony Khan bit, but he did mention, it is a huge show and stacked card, which it absolutely is. I have 10 matches in front of me right here. I'm looking on Wikipedia. I don't know if I think it's pretty reliable. I mean, listen, you're always going to get your stuff on Wikipedia that's inaccurate, or like trolls just going in there and editing stuff for the troll of it, right? But like, I like to usually it's pretty quick to have updated cards, and usually it's pretty accurate when it comes to like actual cards and results. So that's what I'm looking at right now for the most updated card of AEW Revolution. We have a trios match on the pre-show. Big Boom, AJ, and the conglomeration team of Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe, along with Big Justice in their corner, are going to be taking on Johnny TV and the MXM collection of Mansoor and Mason Madden. Obviously, I'm going to go with Big Boom and the conglomeration in this one. It's kind of sad. If Jeremy was here, he would be trolling me and disagreeing about this right now, but it's like, I get that the Costco guys are big on social media. I don't know if they're still as big as they were when they started work for AEW. I don't know. I feel like the whole Boom thing is like insane. It was played out before I even saw it for the first time, and it's like extra played out by now. But that all said, the fact that Orange Cassidy, of all people, like, listen, I love Mark Briscoe and, you know, other people in this match, but like Orange Cassidy especially, like the fact that he means as much as he does to AEW, and he's been as heavily involved as he has consistently in like top storylines in that company as recently as just like last pay-per-view, for him to only be on the pre-show in this like social media pre-show match is a little disappointing. But, you know, it is what it is. It's the pre-show. They're literally putting that on there to get people to hopefully last second, you know, buy the show and all that stuff and get social media impressions. It is what it is. The first match that I have listed here on the actual pay-per-view, this will probably not be the order of the pay-per-view, but just the matches I have. I have Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage. This is a tough one because Kyle Fletcher has been getting the best of Ospreay like this entire time. Ospreay, obviously, you would imagine is still, you know, figured in to be a future AEW World Champion in the not so distant future. You would think, but I think Kyle Fletcher has done a fantastic job. I really do. I like Kyle Fletcher a lot. Personally, I think it'd be really cool to see Kyle Fletcher win this and like continue on like a massive, you know, heel push, but I think the deck had been stacked up against Ospreay enough in this whole feud, and he's lost to Fletcher enough that this is where Ospreay, I think, gets the win, especially with it being a steel cage. Theoretically speaking, you know, obviously people are going to get involved. I'm sure Don Callis' family will be around, but I think Will Ospreay wins. And it looks like, so far what I'm seeing in the chat, it looks like the people agree with Ospreay. Excuse me. We got Kazuchika Okada defending the AEW Continental Championship against Brody King. I'm gonna clear my throat. Sorry, just 1 second, y'all. Unmute my mic there. There we go. So Okada versus Brody King, Continental Championship. I mean, Okada retains, right? I like Brody King a lot. He gets a good reaction. The fans are behind him. I'd like to see them do more with him as a single star. I think that they, you know, AEW has a huge roster, and it's already, you know, there's a lot of people on the roster and a lot of people that you're trying to push and do stuff with. I get it. But like Brody King, I feel like is still being underutilized in the grand scheme of things. We've seen flashes of greatness. We've seen flashes of it in trios matches he had with Buddy and Malachi, you know, of course, and we've seen him in the Continental Classic tournament both years have great performances and get some big wins there, but I think Okada is going to retain here. We got a match that this is honestly the match I'm probably the most looking forward to on the whole show. I put it in the thumbnail for the video. We have MJF versus Hangman Adam Page. Last night on Dynamite, we saw MJF literally try to set Hangman on fire, and it was very poetic how this all went down because MJF literally asked the crowd on the mic, you know, let's see how big of a hypocrite you are, everyone here, when you watch what I'm about to do. You know, you're going to cheer Hangman for burning down Swerve's house basically is the gist of this. But watch what I do when I burn Hangman. I love the segment. I thought this was great. I'm very, very torn on who I think is going to win this match. I think a very strong case could be made for both people. It really depends, I think, ultimately on if Hangman is going to be the guy to take down Jon Moxley. And I think as of right now, as I am live here on March 6th, 2025, I think Hangman is going to be the guy to eventually beat Jon Moxley to take down the Death Riders. Don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point in the near future, probably. MJF can afford to lose, but he's not the kind of guy that I want to see lose often. If he bounces back and wins from now, every time we see him until, like I you know what I mean? Pretty much the rest of the year. I'm fine with that. But they're in a really interesting position with Hangman, and they just technically finally turned him back babyface. Although I've been advocating that he's been a babyface the entire time because I viewed Swerve as the heel in their feud, based on Swerve threatening the children of Hangman. So like now he's actually supposed to get babyface reactions, Hangman, against MJF, and the crowd loves him. He's an actual like staple of AEW, the first guy to ever mention when AEW started, grabbed the microphone saying he wanted to be the first AEW World Champion. He didn't wind up being the first, but he did eventually get that championship, and arguably the best long-term story that AEW has ever told. Hangman eventually winning the title from Kenny Omega. So I'm going to go with Hangman. It's a tough one, though. I think you can totally make the argument for MJF, and I wouldn't even argue it. But I'm going to go with Hangman Adam Page. We got the Hurt Syndicate defending the AEW World Tag Team titles, that of course being Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, with MVP in their corner, against the Outrunners, Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum. I think it's pretty obvious that the Hurt Syndicate wins here. Credit to the Outrunners. They bring something different to the table. The retro look, the retro video styles of like the promos and stuff like that. I dig it. I think it's cool. I think if they were going to pull the trigger on the Outrunners, like the kind of peak of their initial popularity, it would have been them and not Private Party beating the Young Bucks. I'm not against Private Party winning those titles. I thought it was a good moment for them. And it made a lot of sense given the long-term history of the Young Bucks and Private Party going all the way back to the first AEW World Title Tournament. But, they went with Private Party. I think they were really smart to put the titles on the Hurt Syndicate when they did, because the one thing about the Hurt Syndicate that bothers me is that they're a babyface team. They get a babyface reaction. People like them. People want to see them. People want to cheer for them. So while they get cheered for beating the hell out of the Outrunners, when that's not the intended reaction, that's one thing I'm kind of concerned about here, because the Outrunners are tried and true baby faces. But the crowd likes seeing the Hurt Syndicate hurt people. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm going to take the Hurt Syndicate. We got Mercedes Moné defending the AEW TBS title over and against Momo Watanabe. I mean, I don't feel like I should take too much time on this one. Mercedes retains. I think everyone's going to be in agreement there. Undefeated in AEW. The first L is not going to come to Watanabe. It is what it is. I will say this. I think Mercedes started off kind of lukewarm in her AEW run, but has gradually heated up, and she's recently had some really, really damn good matches. I especially like her matches with Chris Statlander, but also great matches with Willow and stuff as well. The one thing about Mercedes I think she desperately needs to change is she needs to stop using that moneymaker, Monet maker finisher, that like gory bomb to the side thing, that spin out gory bomb thing she does. It never looks right. It's like, it is what it is. Like, that's the one thing. Just change the fin. There's nothing wrong with the bank statement. She can't call it that anymore, probably, or probably didn't want to call it that. But use that. There's a variety of things you can do that are going to look way better than that. Pile Driver Finisher says Athena dethrones Mercedes. Oh, that's an interesting prediction to make. Athena, the forever champion in Ring of Honor. Kudos to her. She's done a hell of a job with that championship. I've thought so many times, like multiple times now, I'm like, Billy Starks is for sure beating her for this thing, and it still hasn't happened, which is crazy. We have another match I'm very much looking forward to. We had Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet. The winner of this is the number one contender for the AEW World Championship. This is another one that's difficult to call. I think that they've done a great job with Ricochet in recent months. Like when he first came in, it was kind of rough. It was kind of cheesy. It wasn't really hitting. He started getting toilet paper thrown at him. They leaned into the toilet paper stuff. They leaned into like the nerd Ricochet stuff, the almost like Steve Urkel, Stefan Urkel kind of vibe almost to him, but like it gave him the vicious streak with the scissors in stealing Prince Nana's robe. This is going to be tough because, so Scott George mentioned it in the chat. I was going to bring that up, and I think that it's possible. Jeremy actually brought it up, I think, last week as well. Does Nana turn on Swerve in a line with Ricochet? I could see it happening. I really could. My gut wants to say Swerve wins because I feel like we've seen Swerve take too many L's in recent memory, especially considering where he was at, like as the world champion. But it makes a lot of sense for Nana to turn and for them to, because the only other question I would really ask is, what more do you want to get out of Swerve and Prince Nana together? They fit great. They're like peanut butter and jelly. Like they work great. Him doing the Swerve dance and everything, like it's a part of the package and a part of what made Swerve what he became in winning the AEW Championship and having the title reign that he did and to get into the level he's at. Like I think Prince Nana is like, he's a part of that. He deserves credit. But him and Ricochet is an interesting thing, especially if the whole thing is like, Nana's like, dude, you couldn't get my robe back for me. This guy, I'm with him now, So my official prediction, this is close. I'm going to take Ricochet. And I do think Prince Nana turns for sure if Ricochet wins. We've got Timeless Toni Storm defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Mariah May in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I think this match is going to be great. I think that there's a case that could be made that this match main events the show. I think it's more likely that the world title match with Cope and Mox main events, mainly because Mariah and Tony like recently main evented a big event, but their feud and their work and everything. It goes to the kind of the point we were talking about with the WWE a moment ago about the WrestleMania main events and like how the women, based on merit and their work and everything, absolutely deserve it and have main evented WrestleMania in the past. I think that the same could absolutely be said about Toni Storm and Mariah May. These two can main event any AEW show and it would make sense. I think Toni Storm retains. She just got the title back. The work she's doing is fantastic. Like I'm someone who constantly talks about how important it is, I think, and how much of a leg up I think you get on other people in wrestling by being like legitimately unique. And Toni Storm is super, super unique. She really is. She deserves so much credit for the way that she's reinvented herself with this Timeless Toni Storm gimmick and the layers that they've put into it and the presentation. And I love Mariah May. I've talked about it many times on this show, but like I remember Mariah, we followed each other on Twitter back before she even was training to be a wrestler. Like we had mutual friends and like I just like knew of her like through like, wrestling, other wrestling fans and stuff. She was friends with some of my friends. And it's just like, to see where she's at is remarkable. Like she's so good, so fast. She looks incredible. She looks like a massive star. You know what I mean? So like, I love both these women. I think all this has been great between them. But I'm going to say Toni Storm retains, and this falls count anywhere. So I think she does something like crazy to Mariah at the end of the match to end that thing. We got Konosuke Takeshita defending the AEW International Championship with Don Callis in his corner against Kenny Omega. I feel like Kenny's got to win this one, right? I mean, Takeshi's beaten him. He beat him twice in like 1 week a while back, right? If I remember correctly. I don't think that Kenny has defeated Takeshita. Kenny's like his big return. You know, he's been back for a second, but like this really feels like in a lot of ways like the return of like, you know, prime. Well, actually, I can't say prime Kenny, but you know, Kenny Omega in a singles match that really, really matters against a guy he has history with, a guy who was kind of like his underling, like a guy that he mentored in Takeshita early on in Takeshita's career. Obviously, you have the tie-in with the Don Callis family and Don Callis himself and Kenny and everything. I'm going to say Kenny Omega wins this one. I hate to say so often that I think AEW has too many championships to begin with. I think Takeshita has done a very good job with the International Championship. He always has great matches, has great spots. Him and Orange Cassidy completely tore it up recently. But like, and also on the indies, Takeshita randomly will pop up and just have bangers. So I think this match is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I think this match is going to totally rule. It might be the best match of the entire night on a really stacked card. But I still think they have too many titles, but it's not the worst thing in the world, right? To have Takeshita have a run like he had with this thing, to potentially have Kenny have it next. I'd be more concerned about like, why do we have the Continental Championship still? You know what I mean? But I'm going to take Kenny Omega. And what I'm guessing is probably the main event of the show. We have Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship against Cope. The big story here going into this match, obviously, is that Cope, along with, you know, his friends like Jay White, and Willow, have one by one taken out each member of the Death Riders, except for Wheeler Yuta, who Cope wrestled last night on Dynamite. He had a sign of respect between Yuta and Cope. I like Yuta a lot, by the way. Yuta gets a lot of flack for some reason. Maybe I'm biased because I saw him live a bunch on the indies, you know, pre-AEW. So I've gotten to see him grow and like evolve. You know, we're talking about WWE Evolve here shortly, but I've seen him, you know, really grow. And I like that he was a member of the Combat Club and that he was, you know, go so far back as to when, you know, Regal was in the Blackpool Combat Club mentoring the group. He took Wheeler Yuta in all the way back then. That's how long ago that was. So I like that he's been a focal part of this story, and he has been utilized pretty well, in my opinion. He's you know, it's a completely separate conversation, I think, if you like the Death Rider story or not. But I think within the context of what we're actually seeing in the story and how it's played out, Wheeler's been used as bait to get, you know, people in the right place at the right time for the Death Riders to attack. Wheeler's been used as a whipping boy. He's been used as the guy who takes, you know, basically anything negative that the Death Riders have to offer, like amongst their own group. Wheeler's the one who winds up paying for it. Wheeler's been the decider, the reason for finishes of some big matches, coming in, interfering in matches, and helping Jon Moxley retain the championship. I think Wheeler Yuta is being set up for success in AEW as a singles wrestler. And I'm honestly looking forward to seeing that happen. I think he's a legit homegrown AEW talent that I'm absolutely a Wheeler Yuta fan. I feel like not enough people stick up for the guy. I really like him. And I thought it was interesting that Cope shook his hand instead of taking him out with a concerto and basically planting that seed in Wheeler's head of like, I respect you. Jon Moxley doesn't. And then the way that Mox reacted to it, you know, the interactions between him and Yuta after, obviously there's some options here. Because the whole setup to the match that I've just gone through all leads to the concept that it's going to be Mox versus Cope one-on-one. No one else is going to interfere or get involved in this. On one hand, it makes me think, well, Yuta's just going to Like, he's still just going to wind up helping Moxley. I don't think he's going to, though. I think we do get a new Death Rider. Jeremy has thrown out the idea before of Josh Alexander maybe joining, who's recently been signed over from TNA. I think that would be. I like the idea. It all depends on how they capitalize on it. But if they're going to add a new Death Rider, I think Josh Alexander fits the mold. I'd like to see something like that happen for him. I think he'd get a big push right out the gate with AEW. I'm interested to see that. Does Jay White turn maybe and join the Death Riders? Does Jack Perry turn and or sorry, not even turn, like basically turn on the Elite or whatever and join the Death Riders instead? Power Driver Finisher mentioned Jack Perry as well. I think we're going to get a new member of the Death Rider. I think Jack Perry is probably the front runner. Maybe even multiple members. Maybe multiple people join the Death Riders. So yeah, I'm going to say that Jon Moxley retains the title still. And a lot of that has to do with, like, it just doesn't make sense for Cope to be the one to take down Jon Moxley. I think Cope has done a great job. He's very over, has really solid matches. I got nothing against him. I could only hope to not only get to his age in my life, but to be in any kind of shape, even anywhere 10% of what kind of shape Cope is in at his age. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, it's inspiring seeing a guy like him and how long he's been doing this and how long he had to take off, but still eventually returned, and very respectable guy. When he was one of my favorites in like the Ruthless Aggression era, I was always anti John Cena, so I loved Edge when he finally became the Rated R Superstar and won the world title and everything, Money in the Bank and all that stuff. Like, I was really, really big Edge head. I still got one of those Rated R Superstar beanies he used to wear, like those camouflage beanies that he used to wear on his head. So I love me some Cope. Respect the hell out of the guy. But this whole storyline with the Death Riders is about setting up Jon Moxley's future for AEW, and it has to be a younger talent that's going to be around long term that beats Moxley for this thing. And I initially thought it was going to be Darby Allin, between his, trip to the mountain coming up and the, just the timing of everything and his current position on the show. I don't think it's going to be him. I do think it's going to be Hangman, which I like. I love the idea of that. Then we also have Christian in the background with the guaranteed title shot. So does that play a factor? I'll tell you what, the last thing I want to see, like by last thing, I mean the thing I do not want to see happen. I do not want to see Cope beat Jon Moxley for the world title, and then Christian cashes in on Cope, and then we have another dragged out Cope and Christian feud with one another. I do not want to see that right now. I will say that. But I will take Jon Moxley to retain with the introduction of a new Death Rider. All right, let's move on to the next topic. I'll probably go pretty quick through the next couple spotlights so that we can get to the interview, because it is about a 50-minute long interview, almost an hour or so. Don't want the show to drag out too long for all y'all. But let's talk briefly about another spotlight.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
My other spotlight this week is that the WWE is in a partnership now with the National Wrestling Alliance to some degree. Really interesting. We found out that Natalya Neidhart is going to be wrestling for the NWA soon. Natty also was recently advertised for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, which is a GCW branded event. So really cool to see more of this kind of quote unquote forbidden door stuff going on with WWE. But it's also interesting to see like a lot of these companies that AEW had a relationship with, especially like the early years of the company, are like all now working with the WWE. Interesting how things work out. But I'm excited to see what happens here. I cover the NWA almost every weekend on the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. That I do record the show every Sunday or Monday, depending on what's going on over the weekend in the world of wrestling. But I do record that show every week. But most weeks I do cover the NWA on there as well. So I think it'll create a little buzz for the company. I do think there's a lot of good wrestlers. There's a lot of good talent in the NWA. There's a lot of not good talent as well, to be honest. But there is some really, really good talent. Like Kenzie Page, for instance, I think is fantastic. I like Tom Latimer a lot. I think Thrillbilly Silas has still a lot of untapped potential, and I could see him becoming the next NWA World Heavyweight Champion. You know, there are things about the NWA that there are a lot of bright spots on the show. And I want to see the people that I'm a fan of be more successful as a part of that brand. And I think Natty being a part of that does that. It helps that. I also saw Billy Corgan was on Joe Rogan's podcast the other day, the same day they announced this, actually. And I have not watched the podcast, at least not yet. I probably will. But I don't know how often they talk about this or if they do at all. I would imagine like that would be a humongous fumble for Billy Corgan to go on the biggest podcast in the world the day that got announced publicly and not bring up that the end of not only I have to imagine he promoted the NWA on that show. You have to imagine, but you never know because Joe Rogan doesn't know a whole lot about pro wrestling. He has the extensive career as a member of the Smashing Pumpkins and also Zwan. People don't remember that group. I actually saw them live when I was in high school. Zwan is a side project. But my whole point is this is nothing but good for the NWA getting involved with the WWE and getting people like Natty on their show. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. But, you know, well, Scott George said Natty fighting Masha at Bloodsport. Is that the match? I haven't looked like to see if that's actually who she's wrestling, if that's been announced. But like that would be amazing if we got, especially if Masha is still the Knockouts champion at that point and or the JCW World Champion at that point. That would be great. It's Scott George is saying yes. So it is Natty and Masha. Well, there you go. That rules. That absolutely rules. That's great. Happy for Masha as well to get that spot. She deserves it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got as far as the other topic today. Just wanted to throw it out there for those of you who may not know the NWA in some sort of partnership with the WWE. And I'd imagine Natty's not the only person we'll see popping up. The National Wrestling Alliance can absolutely use it. And it's cool that Triple H is willing to make these kind of partnerships with these other companies. It's a lot of this stuff is stuff just, you know, a year or so ago, even a few weeks ago or months ago, right? Like you might have said like, yeah, no, that'll never happen. And that kind of stuff is just happening pretty often right now in the world of wrestling, which makes it a lot of fun. Including a brand new show that includes a lot of indie talent that we talk about here on this show.
I'm gonna give a big motherfucking shout out.
My indie spotlight this week is also kind of WWE spotlight, but includes a lot of indie talent that have been WWE ID'd. We had WWE Evolve premiere last night on Tubi. I love that it is on Tubi because it's free and it's really, really easy to find and you can watch it whenever you want. Love it. Unlike the CW network, which I could have an entire rant on, which I'm not going to do, but it is incredibly difficult for me to watch NXT live because of the way that my cable subscriptions or whatever are set up, my apps are set up, this and that. There's like a very specific way I have to watch the show where to make a long story short, anything else I can just like do like through an app on my TVs at this point. But the way the CW app doesn't have live shows and my Comcast subscription won't let me watch it live on the Comcast app because of some weird like in-home Wi-Fi thing. So like I have to go on my laptop. I'm not even talking about pirating. Like I swear to God, I'm not even talking about like stealing the shows. I literally have to go on my Xfinity on my laptop and hook that up with an HDMI cable into my other room to get it on my television. Like that's the only way that the CW will work for me. Everything else, super easy, including WWE Evolve. I literally just click Tubi for free. It's right there on the homepage. It's 2 clicks. Open Tubi, start the show. Love it. As far as the actual show itself, the format's interesting. I hope it changes and evolves along the way, and hopefully pretty quickly. I like the matches a lot, but I'd like this to be more of like a show with like stories and stuff, which I'm sure it will be. This was literally the first episode of it ever, and they're going to figure things out along the way. But this was almost like kind of like watching that WWE LFG show to a degree, just with like way better wrestlers, if that makes sense. There's still some good talent in LFG. You know what I mean? Like, that's not to say like there's no good talent there. There is, like, but a lot of them have been like, WWE, like for unlike the PC for a little while, or got a few shots on Level Up, that kind of stuff. What you're seeing on Evolve is a mixture of that, but also just straight up like super indie matches. Like the main event, the 6-man tag at the end of Evolve was a match you could have seen on any major indie show right now. And they had that type of match. And, I really, really enjoyed it. So as far as the actual show, it was interesting. Peter Rosenberg is one of the commentators, along with, I always forget his WWE name, Mr. Stone. Robert Stone, I think, WWE name. The guy who was Robbie E. But anyways, the actual show, all full disclosure, I'm not the biggest fan of Peter Rosenberg, and his commentary was all right on this. Like, it's not like I've never been a big Peter Rosenberg guy, personally. I've listened to a lot of wrestling podcasters in my time, a lot of people on the radio and stuff like that. I've just never been a big Peter Rosenberg guy. But credit to him for, I've seen him go from, radio personality who kind of dabbled in wrestling media to like where he's at now in the WWE, doing so much with them on pre-shows, post-shows, commentary now. Congratulations. Like, I'm not the kind of hater where like, just because you're not my cup of tea, I don't want to see you be successful. It's inspiring to see someone like that, get to the level he's at, I think. Good for him. But as far as the actual show goes with like the matches and stuff, you find out right at the beginning that Ava Raine is going to be like the GM of the show, like she is with NXT, but also Shawn Michaels is there like for the first show, kind of like leading the charge for everybody. The opening match was Kendall Gray and Carly Bright over Kaylee Armstrong and Danny Palmer. And this was a solid tag team match. These matches were actually longer than I expected them to be. Like, I didn't really have expectations really going into it, but they both wound up being, I want to say, maybe a little over 10 to maybe just under 15 minutes, including the entrances, probably 15 minutes each for the opener and the main event. And we had kind of like a squash match in between. But all these ladies looked good. Like, they're obviously still learning on the job, but at least they're learning on the job in front of human beings. Like, they're getting to do this instead of doing this in the PC in front of nobody. They have like a small crowd of people similar to Level Up where, they can learn in front of people. And there were some good moves in this match. At one point, I'm going to get some of these names mixed up. And I've seen some of these women on NXT Level Up before, but I think it was Danny Palmer that hit like a really nice, it was like a twisting moonsault off the top rope to the outside. Like, there was really good stuff in this one. So, solid opening match to be the first, Evolve match ever for WWE. We had a squash match. We had some promos in between as well, but I'm not going to like spend too much time going over that stuff. But we had a squash match in between where Keanu Carver defeated Trill London. And Keanu Carver, if you've never seen him, they're literally doing TNA Monty Brown with him. Like, he comes out wearing like the leopard print and his move is the pounce. Like, I'm just saying, like, they're recreating Monty Brown in WWE Evolve. I'm not saying that I hate that. I love Monty Brown. He was very underutilized and should have been the NWA TNA champion during his time. But like the parallels are like, you can't unsee it. Like, you will see this guy and go, oh, that they're trying to do Monty Brown with this guy. But he hit a really nice pounce. That was pretty much the match. I mean, it was a squash. He hit the pounce. It looked good. 1, 2, 3. Keanu Carver, definitely someone to look out for. And then the main event was basically a super indie match. We had a 6-man tag where Jack Cartwheel, Sean Legacy, and Cappuccino Jones defeated Ricky Smokes, Brad Baylor, and Jackson Drake. It was cool seeing this because Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes are the tag team Swipe Right, and they're two good-looking, young guys. I mean, they got to be, late teens, early 20s, but they got some size, and they're going to keep growing into their bodies. Really charismatic. Jackson Drake, I could say all the same things about. These guys work really well as a trio, too. And this is like the huge upside of the WWE ID system. These are guys that, like, probably technically speaking, like the WWE, if they were to sign full-time contracts, they have so much more growing they can do on the indies right now, and like literally, like physically and as wrestlers. And when the time is right, then they bring them in full time. But like, don't take them out of the indie scene right now, because they're all thriving. Every name I'm mentioning right now is thriving on the indies right now, and their level, all due respect, like this match was 2 or 3 times better than the opening match. That's not because it was women in the opener and men in the main event. It was because the main event was 6 guys who have been grinding the indies, who can go out there and just have a completely different type of match. And that's what we got. This was great stuff. I like that they actually called Jack Cartwheel. They had been calling him Jack Summit on social media, and he's known as Jack Cartwheel. He does a bunch of cartwheels. He, Sean Legacy, I know mainly from like the Southeast, especially in like action wrestling. Cappuccino Jones, super charismatic, super athletic. People are going to take to his character. All of his moves are based off of like coffee and stuff. So like, this was really good. And Sean Legacy wound up getting the pin for their team. But I think all 6 of these guys completely showed out. So really, really good stuff. And, yeah, I'd recommend checking out WWE Evolve. I'll be covering Evolve every episode of the Weekender, I'd imagine, unless there's some reason not to. I do plan on making that a regular part of the results and recaps for the Weekender going forward, WWE Evolve. So that is that for the topics this week. I'm going to go ahead and try to get the interview pulled up for y'all, because normally Jeremy does this, but the interview you're about to hear is with Big Dave, who is going to be competing this weekend in the New South Haas tournament. Last week we had Patrick O'Malley on the show, and he picked Big Dave to win the whole tournament, and then he was a highly recommended guest to come on this week, so we went out and got him. It was a great interview. He is a former TWE champion. We'll talk all about that. He's a member of KOBK. And once this pulls up, I'm looking forward to you guys being able to see this interview with myself and Big Dave. Welcome to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight on Fightful. I am Stephen Jensen, usually joined by Jeremy Lambert. Jeremy is sick tonight, so he couldn't make it, but I am here, and my guest is here today. We are joined by, a man of many names, the biggest man alive since '99. He's a member of KOBK. He's a former TWE champion. We got Big Dave in the house. Dave, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing good. That was quite the introduction. I got to get used to being announced as a former TWE champion.
Yes. If you want to start off there, that's definitely something I wanted to ask you about. You, of course, are a former TWE champion, albeit short-lived, unfortunately, but you did have that title belt. Essentially what happened was there was a one-night tournament. Darian Bexton, the former champion, had to relinquish the title. There was a one-night tournament. You defeated Aaron Wade and then went on to defeat Shug D all on the same night, won that championship. Your boy Mose, another member of KOBK, was on commentary. Yeah. Everyone was super hyped up. And then Dylan Hales, who is now aligned with Tim Bosby, came out, Action Champ Tim Bosby, comes out, and Bosby lays you out. Dylan makes one final announcement as the matchmaker of TWE, and that one last announcement is, Aaron Wade just gets a title shot right now against Big Dave, who you'd beaten earlier that night. Aaron Wade pins you with 1 foot. That's it. What was it like winning that tournament, holding that title, and then, of course, the unfortunate aftermath of Aaron Wade, kind of stealing that from you?
I think it would suffice to say that was a night of many emotions. You know, I hate the circumstances under which Darian Bingston had to relinquish the title. You know, he was a true fighting champion. No telling how many defenses. I mean, I was one of them. I stood up there with Darian, and I couldn't get it done against him. So I definitely hate that I won the belt under those circumstances. And like you said, Aaron Wade in the first round, that was a pretty sweet victory for me. I'd had my problems with Wade going into the tournament. Him and his little goblin Cullen, little white belt, yellow belt Cullen, he's got running around doing all of his bidding for him. That was a nice moment for me. Being able to do it with the KOBK guys by my side, you know, Cullen handcuffed a returning Brett Eisen. That was really cool for me to be able to do. And Suge D, you know, while I don't always respect how he gets it done, you know, he is a guy that I look up to and respect in this business just because of what he's done and where he's been. So being able to step in there and go toe to toe with him and actually beat him to win the belt itself, that was like a full circle thing for me in my own head. But then it got real bittersweet and it got real, you know, salt in the wound after that. Dylan Hales came out to present me the title. He's helped me out a ton. You know, I look up to him as almost a second father figure and someone who's led me and really helped me out a ton. Because, I mean, I'm only about 3.5 years in now. That's not a ton of time in comparison to a lot of guys, but he's really helped me out a ton. So the fact that I don't know, I guess the fact that he could take away all my hard work like that. You know, I've had many private conversations with Dylan about how hard I've been working just behind closed doors to try to better myself to, you know, win the big matches when they come around. So for him to come out there at one of the biggest moments of my career and stab the knife right in my back, you know, let his recently aligned star, I'll put that in quotation since he is the star maker, to have him come out there. I mean, he tossed me around like a sack of potatoes. I was wore down. I'd already wrestled a whole tournament. You know what I mean? So by the time Bosby got out there and he dumped me on my head with that first German, that almost took me a second to register, you know, because one second I'm celebrating holding the TWE title. The next second I'm upside down on my head and I'm looking up at Dylan Hales standing over me telling me that, you know, I don't deserve to hold the title that I just won and all of this other stuff. And then when I woke up, Aaron Wade's the TWE champion. I mean, that's all a lot to take in for one man in one night. So, you know, I haven't stepped foot in the TWE arena since then. So I don't know when I'll be back just because of all that. You know, that's just a lot to get through.
Yeah, I mean, wide range of emotions, really well articulated, though. I mean, thanks for kind of explaining all that. I know. Sure. I mean, I know that you know, Dylan means a lot to a lot of people's careers. I actually, coincidentally, I interviewed Tim Bosby like a week or so before he aligned with Dylan, and we talked a little bit about Dylan in that interview. And he was like, "Yeah, you know, Dylan said some important stuff to me in the ring when I won the Action title, but like he didn't, you know, I had no idea they were about to align the way that they have." And
who would have thought?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild to see. And I mean, I know you have a relationship with Negative Lee, so so there's a lot of like full circle stuff coming together here with this. Like,
in
so
my
how
moments always get some kind of whacked with something, tossed upside down. It always happens.
Well, hopefully we see you get some revenge on Aaron Wade at some point in the future, because I know the TWE fans love you, and so do the New South fans, really everywhere you're at. But those are the two main places that I know you from, TWE and New South.
Oh,
you know, you mentioned Brett Eisen returning that night. I essentially consider him the leader of KOBK. I know those guys. Like, I know Mose especially well. He's been on the show a lot, and I know those guys I used to live in Nashville, and I used to go to the Sup Rap shows at the Basement East. So, so I got to see those guys kind of like form the bond that like became KOBK, and, you know, the members who have kind of come and gone, and where you guys are at right now, and you being the newest member of the group. What's that experience like, as far as like, when do you find out that they want you in the group? Like, was there any kind of like feeling out process, initiation? Like, did you find out in front of the crowd along with everyone? Like, how did this kind of go down for you joining KOBK?
I found out at the same time as everybody else. I wouldn't really say that there was. If there was a feeling out or an initiation process, it was not made apparent to me. I've known Mose for a long time, even before I stepped into the business as a wrestler. I've known Sean Campbell arguably the same amount of time. I mean, he was around New South when I first started breaking in and training and all that, and we formed a bond that's like no other. That's like my little big brother, and I'm his big little. It's a complex dynamic that we have. But no, I've known both of those guys forever. When I was a teenager going to shows in the North Alabama area, I watched guys like Luther X and like loved watching guys like Luther X. Even going to New South shows, seeing Brett Ison there. Like, I loved those guys as a fan, and then I got close with Mose and Sean. So I guess I didn't fully get it at first. You know what I mean? Because I like, seeing KOBK, you're like, man, these guys are so cool, and you could only hope to be that cool. So wanting me to be included, am I also that cool? So I think for maybe a couple of days, it was a little bit of that, just being like, man, am I really like? But then it all kind of clicked, getting closer with everybody in who I wasn't as close with. It all started to click. So I'm happy to be a part of it for sure.
It's been cool to see as a fan. And have you been traveling with those guys since, or like, how does that work out with, where do you live currently?
I currently live about an hour south of Atlanta.
Oh, okay. So, I'm in Sandy Springs. So we're,
okay.
Same
area.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm looking to get in the car more with them. Hopefully hit some of the towns that Heater and Campbell are making together, whatever happens.
Who are some of your influences as far as like how you formulated what Big Dave is and what we see? Like, who are some of your favorite wrestlers or some influences for like what you would become?
Okay. I'll go favorite wrestlers might be like a little shocking because I love Rey Mysterio.
Okay.
I love Rey Mysterio. He was my favorite wrestler as a kid. As far as like who I molded myself more after, so to speak, I watch a ton of like Magnum TA, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stan Hansen. I've been on a huge Wild Bill Irwin kick recently. Darian Bingston sent me a DM at like 2 or 3 a.m. one night and was like, dude, you need to start watching Wild Bill Irwin. And I was like, okay. So I've been going hard on the Wild Bill Irwin ever since. Outside of the wrestling sphere, I guess I this poster right behind me, I love the Big I'm wrong way. I love the Big Lebowski. That's just cool guy, you know what I mean? Hope to be that cool.
I get those vibes from you, by the way. By looking at you and talking to you, it's very Lebowski. I like it.
Hey, happy to hear. It means I'm doing. It means I guess I'm gravitating towards something that's resonating with me. You know what I mean? Kenny Powers, like Eastbound and Down. Dale Gribble from King of the Hill. Those are just guys that I watch, and I'm like, yeah, I see myself in those guys just a tad bit.
That's too funny. I've always liked Mike Judge, but I surprisingly never got into King of the Hill. Like, I was like into Beavis and Butthead as a kid. I love Office Space.
I love Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. He's done great stuff. I think he's a very funny guy. But what was the other thing you just mentioned? Not Big Lebowski.
Eastbound and Down.
Kenny Powers. I watched that whole series. The first season of that show is legendary. That's like one of the best first seasons and like even the first like few minutes, like how they set the whole thing up. You're just like, exactly what this guy is about immediately.
Yeah, off rip, you just know. And see, that's the type of energy that I hope to bring. Like I seconds after I step through the curtain, I feel like everyone can kind of look at me and go, I know what this guy's about.
Yes. And I mean, there's definitely like a look and like a style to what you do and in the ring with your moves and the way you look at everything. Like, why did you did somebody like name you Big Dave? Did you come up with that yourself? Or the whole like since '99 thing? Is that when you were born? Like, where's all this stuff?
Okay. Since '99 just went on board. I've been Big and I've been Dave since '99, so it all seemed to fit together pretty well. I didn't get no one really called me Big Dave. That's what they called my granddad. So I was just like, Big Dave. I became Big Dave in a sense. He passed on, so I was named after him. So I adopted the role Big Dave just in my life. So I was like, you know what? Just call me Big Dave.
It works, and the fans love it. The fans get into it. I see the signs in the crowd, the Big Dave signs.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So the Haas tournament's coming up. That's gonna be this weekend. You got Donnie Primetime in the first round. I mentioned this on the show before. Some people get a kick out of this. It pops me, but I'm talking about my brother fairly often in this show because he's not a wrestling fan, but like he watches more wrestling than the average person just by being around me. He watches a lot of indie stuff
right.
So, but it's so funny because like when he saw Joey Janela, he asked me if he was ripping off Donnie Janela because he was familiar with Donnie, and I was like, oh no, it's the other way around. It was like the funniest thing in the world to me.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Don't let Donnie find that out.
Yeah.
Cannot let Donnie Primetime hear this information.
Yes, that'd be pretty funny actually to get a reaction to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're going to be wrestling him in the first round, and he means a lot to New South. Obviously, you've been a big part of like the recent years of New South yourself, but Donnie Primetime, one of those guys that I think of, like when I think of the company, like guys like Cabana Man Dan, for instance, people that have been around a long time, been synonymous with that brand. What are you expecting out of this first round matchup with Donnie? And I guess from there, we'll talk a little bit more about maybe some of the other competitors you might run into in the tournament.
For sure. If there's one thing about Donnie Primetime, I know that he's going to empty the clip every single time he goes out there. It doesn't matter if it's the Haas tournament. It doesn't matter what show it's at. He's going to treat it like I treat it, and that's, everything has the implications of a Haas tournament first round match to guys like me and to guys like Donnie, because we're willing to go out there and bleed out and die just to win, no matter the cost. We know that you have to win. I've wrestled Donnie a bunch. I was fortunate enough. Donnie had a hand in training me down there at New South, along with Cabana Man Dan and Kenzie Page. So it's like going out there like the grasshopper wrestling the master in a sense. I would never give him the
credit,
the credit, but in a sense, it is like that.
Yeah.
No telling how many times we've wrestled each other just through the years. Most recently, we went 30-minute time limit draw, 10-minute draw, 5-minute sudden death. So, we know a lot about each other. So I'm expecting him to give it everything he's got, but everything he's got ain't enough to get past me.
You mentioned you had trained along with him or under him, as well as Kenzie Page, Commander Mandan.
Yep.
How long ago did you actually train? Because I know I feel like you've been around for a while, but it's only been a few years still, right?
Yeah. So I started training, 3.5 years. So I started training about 4 years ago. 6
like
months
during the pandemic?
Yep. It was during the pandemic. I was local in the area to New South, so I kind of had a leg up on being around people that could facilitate that during the pandemic. I know some people weren't as fortunate, or like other bigger schools were shutting down because of it, but I was able to break in that way at kind of a downtime in wrestling. Honestly, there wasn't a ton of people running shows just because of state restrictions and all that, but Alabama said none of that. But New South ran a safe show. We made sure that, we did all the proper checking and such, because we didn't want to be implicated in none of that. But I was fortunate enough to break in that way during the pandemic about 4 years ago. Trained for about 6 or 7 months, and then I had my first match against Kenzie Page in the Golden Ape CrossFit Gym on a New South Academy training show.
Well, what was that first match like, and what's it like seeing Kenzie's success, especially like what she's been doing in the NWA?
Oh, it was intense, no doubt about it. Stepping out there against my trainer and someone as highly skilled as Kenzie is, and it makes me feel very happy to see someone that trained me going on to have so much success. I'm very happy for real.
Was there anyone else in that training class with you, like other students that are around right now?
He ain't around no more, but he was there. That's negatively. I say he ain't around. He just posted a whole bunch of pictures and said he was done with wrestling. But who knows? You know, he's a wily dude. I think that's a false flag. Everyone got real sad, and they were like, "Oh, well, Lee." I think that's a false flag.
Can you go into your relationship with Negative Lee? Because I know you guys were really close, and you've also had some like you had like a bull rope match with him that I remember.
Oh yeah, we had to get down and dirty on it. Had to show him what was up, but we were very close. We met literally both of our first days of training. I think it was Haas 2021. It was either Haas 2020 or Haas 2021. Was like I started training that week, and Lee's first show was Haas. So we met that night, and we just started chit chatting. I really didn't like him at first because I thought that there's no chance someone says brother that much. I was like, dude, this is not real. This is not a real person. This is a facade. But then I just hung out with him a bunch, and I was like, dude, no, this dude's awesome, and he just says brother a lot. So we broke in together. We hit the roads together very early on. We tagged together under the BDSM umbrella in the land beyond time of yesteryear. And then he cracked me upside the head with a steel chair. I feel like that's a tale as old as time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He couldn't stand to see a young man shining, so to speak.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to remember. There was someone I interviewed fairly recently that said that they were traveling. Maybe I think it was before you had started training, or maybe right around that same time. But I can't remember if it was like did you break in with Mad Dog Connolly? Or
I did not, but I was around Mad Dog a lot.
Maybe that was it. It was I'm blanking on who it was. It had to have been one of those New South guys. But anyway, give me your thoughts on Mad Dog Connolly while I'm thinking about him, because you could run into him in the tournament. He's on the same side of the bracket as you for Haas.
Oh man, gosh, Mad Dog is a scary dude. You know, he's got a very intense energy about him. You know, just in the few times I've just been in his presence in the locker room since, I'm just like, man, this dude is intense, and he wrestles barefoot.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. I've done that one time. I don't want to ever do that ever again. I don't ever want to wrestle barefoot again. We got psychopaths like Mad Dog Connolly and Cabana Man Dan out here wrestling barefoot. Piggy's out for the whole world to see all the time.
Yeah, especially with all these dog collar matches he's doing. You think he'd like be stepping on the chain all weird and stuff. Dude, I'd be afraid.
Hurts. That hurts, dude. I did farming in my time. I know chains hurt. You get a toe stuck up in there, snap one of them things off.
Yeah, exactly. It seems very risky, but he seems like the kind of guy who welcomes that risk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get in there with Mad Dog. You know, we just be two big old dudes just throwing some lumber on one another.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. And you mentioned Cabana Man Dan a few times. You could potentially run into him in the second round of the Haas tournament based on how the brackets are set up. Thoughts on Cabana Man Dan as far as like, you know, him being one of your trainers and just kind of like what he means, you know, whether it be like to New South or just kind of like indie wrestling in general, because he's been around forever.
Yeah, I love Dan. I love that old dude. He's my little buddy. As like I've mentioned, as a teenager going to shows in the North Alabama area, Dan's one of those guys. I cried when Dan won Haas. I was in the crowd and I cried when Cabana Man Dan won Haas. You know what I mean? That's how much Dan meant to me just as a fan. I don't even know him, but just watching and the connection that I felt to Dan, I cried when he won Haas. It's a real shame that if I do see him in the second round that I will knock him out of his last Haas ever. Be you not dismayed. But that just goes to show how much he does mean. As I was a fan, and when he came back and he won Haas, I was in the crowd crying like a baby. Like a little baby, dude. And I told him that, and he holds it over my head now. He loves to bring up when I cried when he won Haas or when he won the title. But he means a lot to New South. He means a lot to this, to indie wrestling as a whole, really. I was going to say this scene, but he transcends that. You know, Dan is one of those guys. He's been around for a long time. He's a wealth of knowledge. I was very fortunate to have him as having a hand with me in my training and such. I think it'd be good to get in there with Dan. You know, maybe I'd have to show him that, hey man, there's a new top dog around here.
Also wrestles barefoot, so you know maybe
Another
there's a theme
psychopath.
here. Yeah.
Another psychopath. No, I'm doomed to wrestle someone barefoot somewhere along the lines in this tournament, ain't I?
It's very possible you could be doing that in the second round against CMD, and then potentially the finals. Because for those of you may or may not know, the Haas tournament finals is elimination 4-way match, so it's singles matches and a 4-way elimination. So we could get you versus CMD in the second round, and then potentially Mad Dog Connolly in the finals. The other person you could potentially run into, well, there's a few other people potentially, you know, obviously, you know, Cheeseburgers in this tournament, Stallion Rogers, a lot of people that, you know, have been around a long time, have had a lot of clout, you know, in the wrestling world. But someone that you probably see fairly often, especially like in TWE, is Jameson Shook. He's also on this side. Jameson, an up and comer who's making waves quick, doing great everywhere he shows up, whether it be in a tag team or singles. What's your opinion? I saw you kind of getting excited when I brought his name up. What are your thoughts on Jameson Shook?
Oh, I'd love to get in there and tangle up with Jameson Shook. I don't appreciate his attitude around New South. You know what I mean? It's almost like night and day when I see him other places. But in New South, for some reason, he's sour grapes down there. So maybe I'd beat them sour grapes out of him if I ran into Jameson Shook. But no, I love seeing I'm by no means claiming to be, you know, some kind of veteran, so to speak. But for me, seeing guys that broke in after me, even only being about 3.5 years in, I do take a lot of pride in seeing them, you know, make waves, like you said, and just doing cool stuff. So I'm like, man, I love them guys.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. It's a lot of fun to watch from like a fan perspective as well. Just seeing people grow. I love the process of seeing people go from like, you know, like no move set, no gear, no music, you know, and then like figuring it out in front of fans. Like I love that whole process. Very cool to see. Speaking of that, a part of that is, you know, figuring out what your finishing move is going to be. And your move, the Spirit of 99, how did you come up with that? Like why is that your move? And by the way, I like it. I think it fits you very well, and you lay it in there, which I appreciate.
Oh, hey, it's the finishing move, dude. I'm trying to kill him when I cock this arm back. I don't know. I mean, I think I've always had naturally broad shoulders and like long, lanky arms. So I was like, you know what? I figure if I take one of these things and wrap it around someone's head, I think that'd put him down for the count. And once I figured it out, you know, once I started honing it in and started getting it right there in the sweet spot, which is, you know, right in here, I was like, you know what? It's working, so why would I not do it? And then Spirit of 99, I don't know. I was just thinking one day, I was like, that sounds like it could be an old country song. I'm pretty sure I was listening to Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald or something like that. And I was like, you know what? Spirit of 99 sounds like an airplane that crashed carrying like some important people. Yeah.
I would have never thought that myself, but now that you've mentioned that, I'm going to think about it every time I see that movie from now on. So
I'm going to hit it and you're going to go, man, that would make a hell of a country song. Spirit of 99.
Yes.
Then just let your mind wander on what the song sounds like. I feel like it sounds a little different to everybody.
Yes. That's a choose your own adventure type scenario.
The Spirit of 99 are the friends we made along the way.
Nice. Speaking of friends that you might want to make along the way, I'll transition that into another question I got for you. Some new friends you could potentially make. Where are some places that you haven't wrestled yet, some indie promotions that you would like to be performing in?
I'm not generally one of those people who's like, you know, outspoken with like, you know, tag me where you want to see me. And then, you know what I mean? Feels I'm not hating on people that do it, but to me personally, I feel like I would be being disingenuous with myself if I were to put that out into the universe without earning it, so to speak. I'm just looking at really anywhere. To answer your question, any promotion that I've not wrestled at is a promotion that I would like to work with for the first time. You know, I'd love to travel more outside of the Southeast area. I really want to go like out to the West Coast. I've never been there. I've been pretty local to the South my whole entire life, pretty much until I started wrestling. And I've been to New Jersey a couple of times, and Texas and Missouri, and some places that took me away from Georgia and Alabama, Florida several times. So really, I just want to see more of the country. I just want to go to places I ain't never been.
What
Sorry,
about
that wasn't?
No,
sorry,
no,
that
no.
wasn't
That's a
specific.
good. No, that's okay. That's totally fine. I completely understand what you're saying too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, what about like some goals you have in wrestling? Like, what would you eventually like your career to kind of look like? Maybe long term and short term.
Short term, I would say just, keep improving every time I'm out there. I don't really focus on, big goals. I do have big goals, but they aren't my leading focus in wrestling. I just want to get better every single time I'm out there. I want to learn something new any chance that I can. I want to travel to do both of those things. I want to travel to get better and learn, and I want to get better and learn so I can travel.
Oh, well, along with that, like, what are maybe some of your, I know it's kind of along the same lines of like, where would you want to work, but like, do you have any, for lack of a better term, like dream matches, like people that you would want to wrestle like in the foreseeable future that you haven't yet, or even like, pipe dream, like 5 to 10 years from now, major promotion, like someone you think you'd never be able to wrestle, but like if you could, you would.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Maybe I'll break it down into two parts because that's kind of how I received it. So like maybe the more attainable ones that I could see happening, I guess, relatively soon if they were an option. I'd love to get in there with Cousin Beef. Beef's a guy that I've loved watching from afar. I'm real cool with Beef. We're pretty close, so getting in there and wrangling it up with him would be cool. I was really pretty fortunate this year to just like get a lot of surprise matches that I didn't really think that I would get. I got to wrestle Stallion Rogers and Donovan Dijak. So those were things that like I didn't even have as options, but they happened, and I was like, "Damn, how cool is that?" Let me think on that just a second, because they're there, but it's one of those like I
put you on the spot. I got you.
If I didn't have to think too hard about it, if Derek Neal comes back fine and dandy, I'd love to get back in there with Derek Neal for a round 2. Eric Royal, he's a guy that I always enjoyed just watching and being around. So maybe getting to wrestle Eric Royal would be nice. That's really all that's sticking out to me. I feel like,
have you mixed it up with Manders yet?
I have. I wrestled Manders at Duke's Honky Tonk in Indianapolis, Indiana, on a KOBK. I want to say it was For the Working Man.
You sure did.
That was the show because me and Campbell were on 87 territory. 87 territories.
You sure did. I'm remembering that now. I love those KOBK shows. I love how I love how they mix in like the no ring, like y'all just wrestle out on gravel type stuff too. Like, I love it.
Plop that in there for fun. Getting to wrestle Manders was awesome. I love Manders to death. I feel like I see a lot of myself in Manders.
That's why I asked, but that's also I definitely remember the match that you had now that I'm thinking about it. But that's the reason his name came to mind, was like I see some similarities there where I could see you guys being like a cool team, or just having one of those kind of like fight forever type feuds with one another, where like when you see each other, it's just kind of like always on. You know what I mean?
Always on site.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of stuff are you into like outside of wrestling?
Oh, outside of wrestling. Oh man, I feel like I'm pretty basic. I like music. I'm a big music guy. I got my little rap dudes up there on my shelf. I got a Biggie.
Is that Notorious B.I.G.? Okay.
That's I got Biggie. I got the real big Biggie, and then there's some little dudes. I got Tupac and Outkast up there. I like watching like older movies. I got the Jaws and the Big Lebowski poster up here, and I got my little Pink Floyd. God, I keep pointing the wrong way because I'm looking at the camera and I'm not just turning around and looking. But no, I love music. I like I like Batman. I love just sitting down and watching Batman, the animated series, or really any kind of Batman stuff. I play the drums a little bit. I'm just trying to think of what I do now. But yeah, no, really just like music and watching stuff. I love playing video games. That's been something that I've done pretty much my whole entire life. I'm a huge gamer. I'm sitting here at my little gaming station right now.
Which games mainly?
I play a ton of like sports games like NBA 2K, Call of Duty, just really stuff like that. I've been getting into this colony sim. Well, I'm not getting into it. I've been heavy into it for a while. This colony sim game called RimWorld. You just got little people and you try to make them survive as long as possible, but the AI will just make crazy stuff happen to them.
Gotcha.
So really just anything I can zone out on. Like I love franchise modes, like universe mode on WWE 2K, anything where I can like long-term do some stuff and really just zone into it.
I was gonna ask if you play the like the current WWE games. I got the one from last year and I had some fun with it, and I'm looking forward to the one this year too. It looks like they're adding a whole bunch of stuff too. So.
Oh yeah, I feel like they really turned over a new leaf with the one from last year, and now with all the stuff coming out about the new one, I think they dropped all the DLC packs today finally, and I was like, oh yeah, we're so back. I can see myself spending 36 hours on this week one.
Yeah, it's gonna all in all, it's gonna wind up probably costing us like over $100 to get like the game, all the DLC, the season passes, and all that. But my thing is, like, I know it's weird how video games have worked in recent years. Either they're becoming way more expensive, but like you get like a legit fully made game for like a higher price, which if the game's good, I'm okay with that. Or it's like a free game and then it's like all the freemium or like the add-ons or the battle passes and all this other. So it's like it's kind of like pick your poison. Like, would you rather have a free game that like might not be as good that you only get to play like part of it, or you pay more but you get like an actual fully made game that like you can play for years? So I'm interested to see. I mean, I love seeing the DLC. Like, I'd pop big seeing Abyss on that list. I did not expect to see Abyss on that.
Yeah, I hope Abyss brings thumbtacks. They had thumbtacks. I have just a few mental stipulations, and they fulfilled two. They fulfilled one of them with New Jack when I saw that he was a teaser. I was like, if New Jack and thumbtacks are in this game, along with like the light tubes and the doors and all that they added this year, I will order the most expensive version, pre-order, and just get every bit of content that they got. I won't spend no money on VC, but I will give them the real life currency of $100 and whatever to pre-order that some bitch and have it just loaded with all the game day one release content.
Imagine they add like a scaffold match for New Jack with like.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. You give me one tasty tidbit like that, I'm pulling my credit card out and I'm slamming it down on my Xbox.
So I didn't mean to cut you off. I think you're.
Oh no, you're good. I was just gonna go in on I don't like the reskin games and all that either. Like I feel like specifically games like I don't know NBA. I haven't bought NBA in a couple of years because you could just download new rosters if you have an internet connection, and that's really all they do. That's different.
Yeah,
but I think that WWE turned over a new leaf really with the last one, and they were just like, you know what, we get it, guys. We've seen your complaints for 5 to 6 years. We're gonna give you what you want.
Well, there was that one year, like a few years ago, where they just didn't even make a game. They were like, last year was such a disaster. We're just going to take a break for a year and figure it out.
And I was one of those people that trusted that game full price. I didn't wait for it to go on sale. I was like, you know what? I'm doubling down with 2K. I see all the bad reviews, but I also saw some reviews that were like, who cares? Just buy the game. And I was like, I'm going to buy the game. I couldn't even play it. Every time I would reverse a move, my game would crash. And I was like, this is the worst thing ever.
Which system do you play on?
I was playing it on I think I was on an Xbox One at the time. I've upgraded to like the Series X since then.
Cool. Yeah, I have a PS5, so that's what I've been playing like the new ones on. But prior to that, like I think people who were trying to play some of these games on the Switch, like you couldn't even like turn the game on.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, people are Switch developers are the true thieves. The people who are putting games like that on the damn Nintendo Switch, and they're like, they'll pay $60 for this and it won't work.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly
that's another thing with NBA. I saw people complaining about the sports games on Switch, and I was like, guys, if you're playing anything outside of like Mario Kart or Pokemon on the Switch, I don't know what you're expecting from that system.
Exactly. That's literally like I have a Switch as well, and it's mainly because I love Mario Kart, and like that game still holds up, like, and you can still play it online and stuff. So it's like it's pretty much me buying a system for that. I mean, they have some other obviously good games that I just haven't had the time to sit down and like play through. But I learned my lesson back during the days of the original Wii when I like tried to be innovative, and I had an Xbox 360 or whatever the newest one was at the time. I think it was the 360, but I opted to buy Madden on the Switch or on the Wii because I was like, I just got a Wii, so like I'm gonna try the new sports game on the Wii, and it came with you use your hands, like you throw the ball with your arm. Dude, and I remember the first time I tried playing it, I whipped back to throw a pass to the quarterback, and the ball flew out of my hand backwards like 50 yards down the wrong side of the field, and I was like, well, this doesn't work.
Dude, so, I used to love playing Madden 11 on the Wii, the one with Troy Polamalu and Larry Fitzgerald on the cover, because they had this game mode that was supposed to be co-op where one person was controlling the players and like actually playing the game, and the other controller was a cursor that you could use to knock down defenders. So I would hold like the one that could knock down defenders in my armpit, and I would like I would make the pass, quickly drop that remote, and use the nunchuck to make the person move, and then I would pop that one out and knock down all the defenders. Dude, I'd be beating people like 450 to nothing.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. Once I figured that, I was like, dude, you don't even have to have a friend to have fun playing this mode. You just have to have great hand-eye coordination.
I saw part of an interview that you did not too long ago with my buddy Ben Boston Nuga.
Oh yeah, Boston Nuga Ben.
I saw in the corner of your screen, it looked like you had some action figures. Do you collect figures as well?
Oh, buddy, yeah. I've been eyeballing the wall behind you this whole time. I do have a huge, like, it's like an in-the-wall bookshelf, you know, like one of them old school, like, it's like indented into the wall. It's just filled with action figures just across the board. I like collecting little knickknacks. You can see, like, I got my stuff over here on my shelves. I got a little Lego Batman deal over there. I love action figures, like little knickknacks of things that I like. I will spend $10 on a figurine. I love it.
Oh, I know all about that. I completely understand how that goes.
I see behind you. I'm like, yes, this is a man of taste.
Oh, it's very it's a problem. And I don't have a very good camera, but it's hard to tell. But everything behind me is signed as well. So these are all nice. So I've spent way too much money and time on. I mean, that's just. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and flex on my collection, but that's just one wall. I mean, I'm surrounded by. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is because like when I saw that interview with Ben, I'm looking in the corner and I'm like, that's a few rows of figures right there. Like, so I know like you had to be a collector.
Oh yeah, it's like 6 rows. I've got it broken down. Like I've got like a Mick Foley corner up there, and it's just got, you know, Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love across the board. Then it gets into like who is that next thing? Oh yeah, that's Rey. I got a whole thing of Rey Mysterio. I told you I love Rey Mysterio. I've got pretty much, I think, like every version of Rey Mysterio that's been released in the past like 5 or 6 years, plus a couple of older ones. Because I'm big on, like, if I vividly remember having the fig as a kid, then I want that in the box behind like all of the modern figs that I'll open up and like put up. I'm like, I want all the ones that I remember from being a kid. I want those to be the ones that I spend a little extra on in the box, and the rest of them I'll just like get them on sale at Target or Walmart. I'm a big old nerd like that. I love little things like that.
I love that. I love when people can like justify their collections like that, where it's like, I have my way of doing it. I have my thing where I like to set them up the way that I set them up. I like the stuff that I like. Your thing with, if that's how I remember them, I get them in the box and I get the newer ones loose out in front of them. I love that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, like everyone's got their own little unique way of how they go about collecting the same thing as everybody else. I think it's real neat.
Yes, and the thing with someone like Rey Mysterio is like he has endless figures because he has so many different masks and gear that like there's so many of those.
I just recently I stayed at my dad's house after a New South show. Not just recently, but like within the past few months, and he handed me a box of all the figs that I had when I was a kid that he like found. And I mean, that was like Christmas Day for me. I was going through and looking at like all the old Jack specifics where like the Rey Mysterio is like 11 inches tall because it's not proportionate to anything else.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I know for like myself, it's a mix of like the stuff that I had as a kid that I needed to like either like if I got rid of it when I was younger, my parents got rid of it when I was younger or something, I like had that itch of getting it back. And then the other thing that's really big for me is if I remember it, and I have a lot of memories of being told no when I was younger, like, no, you can't get that. No, that's too expensive. No.
Oh,
and now it's like, I'm a single guy without kids and expendable income. So I'm just like, if I liked it as a kid and I want it, I'm just like, screw it. I'm just going to buy it. I'm just going to buy it and put it in my collection.
That's mine.
Yes. There you go.
That. That's kind of similar here, where it's just like, you know, I got told no a lot on stuff like this, so I'm gonna get my little knickknacks now.
Exactly. Do you have? We ask everyone on the show the coolest thing in their room. Do you have like a favorite figure or like a favorite piece of memorabilia that you have, or maybe a couple that you could show?
Oh, the coolest thing in my room. I have a signed Larry Bird jersey, like above the mantle, like above my TV. That's probably the coolest thing that I have, because I love Larry Bird. I will go back and watch like full Boston Celtics games from when Larry Bird played, just that if I find them on YouTube, I'll watch like there's this one YouTube video, and I tell everyone, if I even mention Larry Bird to someone, I mention this, because sometimes when I'm in the gym doing cardio, I just watch the same Larry Bird ultimate trash talking highlight reel video on YouTube. I wish if I'm blanking on the channel's page that has it, I most of the time have it ready to go so I can tell people to look it up. It's just like 45 minutes of clips of him talking trash, old NBA legends just being like, here's what Larry Bird said to me, and it made me very sad. Like, I use that to get into like a dog type of mentality.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen some of those interviews with some of those legends who were like, this was the most ruthless guy. The stuff he was saying to us out there, but he was so good that like people, like he could shut people up with his game. So like he
what
could.
Are you supposed to do?
Yeah, that was my dad's guy. Like that was
same.
Yeah,
same here. And my dad loves the Celtics.
Oh man. Well, Dave, thank you very much for your time tonight. Really appreciate conversation. What I know you obviously have the New South. Oh,
a little chicken. We got chicken. She was clawing at my leg, so I was just gonna go ahead and pick her up. We got a little chicken biscuit appearance in here right now.
Oh,
what's up? This is my cat Chicken Biscuit. It's one of the ones that I got to name.
How many cats do you have?
We have 4 cats. We have Chicken Biscuit. We have Larry, she's named after Larry Bird. And then my partner named our other 2 Zelda, because they had Zelda before I came around, and then Salem, who is Larry's sister. Chicken Biscuit's just a little. She's a menace. That's all she is. No relation. We have a big old Rottweiler named Remy. She's out back right now. She's just a big old goofball.
Oh, very cool. That all said, this weekend, New South Hoss tournament. We know that's coming up.
All eyes on that. All eyes on the Hoss. I have to fulfill my destiny. I keep losing big time matches at New South. I finally got it done at TWE, no matter how it ended up. So I'm trying to get it done at New South now.
Well, I mentioned this before we started rolling, but Patrick O'Malley, the referee we had on last week on the show, he chose you to win the entire tournament. Also wanted to hear from you on this show. So I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
Absolutely.
I think based on this conversation, I may have to switch my prediction. Full transparency was Hunter Drake. I know.
Oh, you thought he was going to repeat? Well, come on, man.
He just lost the title. Tyler Franks has it. They have this whole redemption thing that they can do with the Talladega. Here, listen, I might have to officially change my pick to the biggest man alive. I might have
This
to.
isn't just a recency bias, is it? You're not just saying this because we've spent some time with each other now and you feel like you have to say it. Like, you really believe this.
I'm starting to really believe it. I really am. You mean a lot to New South. You've done a great job there in the last few years. You have not won the tournament. Others in this tournament have. I feel like you could do a lot with this tournament win. And I feel like you're a guy who's going to be around New South for a while. So, like, you know, I really do think that you could have a great tournament. I very much think you could win this whole thing. I'm not just saying that. I mean, obviously, it's recency bias because I'm literally speaking to you now.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But anything else coming up that people should know about? And also, please let everyone know like where they can find you. We'll put links and everything in the description.
1 week after Haas, I step into a Retinal Pro Wrestling ring, and I'm wrestling every single member of the Carnies in a gauntlet match. I will be facing Nick Iggy in one-on-one competition. I will be facing, after that, win, lose, or draw, I'm facing Kerry Awful in one-on-one competition. And then after that, win, lose, or draw, it was supposed to be Hunter Drake for the Retinal Heavyweight title, but, you know, Carney's going to Carney. The owner of Retinal Pro Wrestling, the evil, greedy general manager, Maxwell Classic, he has shuffled Hunter Drake away somewhere else for the evening, and I'm going to get in there and I'm going to beat Maxwell up in a match if that's what it takes. I was told I'm going to wrestle 3 Carnies, and if Maxwell is the 3rd Carney left standing, then I will drag him by his bald head into that ring, and I will have a match with him.
There you go. What about like social media places people can find you or like merchandise, that kind of stuff?
That was also a part of what you asked. My apologies.
No, you're good. I want to make sure you can plug that stuff if people.
Yeah, let's get to it. I'm trying to do better about being active and such on all these social media platforms. I'm just a simple man from Alabama. I don't know when to post on Instagram for the algorithms, and I don't know that I didn't know that I could only post 2 minutes and 15 seconds on Twitter, even though my highlight video is 2 minutes and 27 seconds, and then I got to pay $3.99 a month for. I don't know all of this stuff, but on Instagram you can find me at Big Dave PW. On Twitter you can find me at Big Dave since '99. On Facebook I got one of them like pages, and if you like it enough people like it, and if enough people follow along on Facebook or on Instagram, anywhere in that little metaverse, metasphere, even on my Twitter, I think that this will happen. They will be forced to give me money, and that is what I want. I want these social media apps to have to pay me for tweeting what I'm thinking at 2:12 in the afternoon.
Exactly. Well, there you go.
That's what it's all about.
We'll have links in the description for everyone.
There's my shameless plug for myself.
Well, we want people to be able to find you. So we'll make sure to put some links in the description so y'all can follow along with Big Dave. Everything he's got coming up. And do you have merch?
I do have merch. I'm working on an online store. This is something I need to do because I had a Store Frontier for a long time, and that did very well. I loved it. That Store Frontier one day that I just couldn't log into it anymore, and they PayPal'd me all the money that they owed me, and I was like, okay, guys, but I would still like a platform to post these damn shirts on. I haven't found anything that was similar to Store Frontier. That was pretty user friendly. You just really click a few buttons and then frame it up on a shirt and then add a description and post it. So I'm looking for something like that. But as of now, I'll have merch on hand at shows that you see me at. You can see me at a lot of places down here in the Southeast, like New South Pro Wrestling in Alabama, Action Wrestling in Georgia, TWE Chattanooga, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. Those are like my 3 mainstays. I make my little voyages elsewhere in my journeys, but those are like the 3 places that I'm always at.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, once again, thank you to Big Dave for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me. This was a fun time.
Yeah, I had a blast. And
me too.
Everyone follow along with Dave, and we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. Hey everyone, sorry about that. I'm trying to get myself back out here on the screen to close the show out. This is the fun shenanigans that you get when it's just me and not Jeremy, as I try to figure out how to use these updated StreamYard settings that I haven't messed with. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Big Dave. That was a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed that. Thank you again to Dave for his time. Look out for transcribed articles from that conversation on Fightful.com. Thank you to Jeremy. And I know Skylar's been helping with those as well. So everybody who ever helps with any kind of transcription or anything here at Fightful for any of these interviews we do, I very, very much appreciate your time and your effort. And I know the talents really appreciate it as well. The people we interview, getting those out there. So thank you guys very much to the team here at Fightful who makes all that stuff happen. Really, really, really appreciate y'all. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Appreciate Jeremy. Hope he feels better, but he did jump on here, talk some WWE with us earlier. So that was a lot of fun. As far as stuff that I've got going on, yeah, usual stuff right now. I'm excited for AEW Revolution this weekend. I mentioned earlier it's my brother's birthday on the same day, March 9th. So looking forward to this weekend. Hope you guys enjoy some wrestling this weekend as well. If you want to follow me on X, it's Fight Talk _ like you see here on the screen. And also, you can use code Fight Talk on independentwrestling.tv. It just lets the platform know that I sent you their way. So I appreciate everyone who uses that code. All is one word, no spaces, just Fight Talk, FIGHTTALK. And please listen to the Weekender podcast over on Fightful Select. I do that show every Sunday, sometimes Mondays. It's all dependent on, if there's big indie shows, especially like on Sunday nights, I do the show on Monday so I can include those, in the results. But at some point on Sunday, some point on Monday, every week, you can check out the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. I cover the whole world of indie wrestling. I do recaps, predictions, spoilers, whole bunch of stuff. So appreciate everyone who supports that show. I've been doing that now for over 6 years here at Fightful. So it's pretty wild how much this platform here at Fightful has grown over those years. Really, really cool to see. So appreciate all of y'all who are here tonight in the live chat. Really like the switch up, as I mentioned, switching over to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time has been nice. Gives you a little more time to breathe on the show. I don't have to rush out, start my shoot job. And after this, I can grub out and chill, which I'm looking forward to doing here in just a couple seconds. So thank you once again, everyone who is here live. And thank you to everybody who watches in the future on demand here on Fightful Overbooked, or if you listen through the audio platforms, podcasts, that kind of stuff. I appreciate you very much as well. Yeah, looking forward to next week. We'll see you same time, same place next Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Don't know who our guest will be yet, but it may be related to the Haas tournament. That's also coming up this weekend. I do not know yet when that will air. It does not sound like it'll be live, but we will try to get either like the Haas winner or somebody that's heavily involved in the tournament on the show, next week, maybe the week after. We'll have more interviews for y'all and all that good stuff, as we always do. So once again, thank you to Jeremy for jumping on here with me. Thank you to everyone who supports the show. And I am out of here once I figure out how to end the stream. All right.